with 10 people on board near the Ashmore group of islands. HMAS Maitland stopped the boat last night and the asylum seekers will be taken to Christmas Island for security, identity and health checks. The nationality of the 8 passengers and 2 crew has not been confirmed. The Australian Federal Police has launched an investigation into the grounding of a Chinese coal carrier off the central Queensland coast. In a statement, the AFP says it's launched an investigation after a request by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. ABC News.
Antarctica is windy, cold, isolated and inhospitable. Yet its beauty speaks to our imagination. Diana Patterson tells her story of Antarctica in the new ABC book, The Ice Beneath My Feet. She tells of her dream job as the leader in charge of an Australian research station in Antarctica. The Ice Beneath My Feet is a riveting account of her years there. Available now from ABC shops, centres, good bookshops and online.
Grandstand AFL.
Terrible kick in by the Cats. They can't win from here. There's just no possible way that they can kick a score big enough to win this game. They have got no hope in hell.
This would be one of the most heroic wins in the history of the Geelong Footy Club. Bartel to win the game. He has. Anthony for his 50th goal this season. On the right, John Anthony has kicked the goal. Collingwood back in front.
He's closed down by Scarlett, who sprinted at him and slam dunked him into the turf.
Well, has there ever been a more crucial toe poke? And the ball was out there.
Wasn't that brilliant?
Sensational.
Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio.
2 teams without a win. Last week, West Coast was close, just a flip of the coin or the running of a stretcher away from victory. North Melbourne was a mile away, beaten by more than 100 points by St Kilda. They've tried to put their club back together in the ensuing days. They front up at Docklands to face the Eagles, a team who have been their masters in recent times. Both teams out on the ground for Saturday afternoon football on Grandstand AFL. It's the Kangas and the Eagles. Teams are as selected on Thursday night. Gerard Whateley and Drew Morfitt to call the action for you. Stan Elves is joined this afternoon by Chris Grant, who's going to show the way. Chris.
Okay, well, I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to seeing how North Melbourne are going to respond. We've got two teams that haven't got a win on the board as yet, and I'm really looking forward to seeing not only how North Melbourne respond after a shellacking last week. They'll be very disappointed with that. We've had the opportunity of speaking to Darren Crocker before the game. I've liked what he's had to say. I actually really, each time I've seen Brad Scott either interviewed or speaking about his team, I really like what he's got to say. I think he played his football honestly, and I think he's very honest with his players. There's no doubt that after last week's game, he would have been extremely honest with them and told them exactly what they didn't do. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they respond. On the other side of the coin, a team is travelling to Melbourne, don't predominantly play very well here. But the expectations that I'm looking forward to seeing out of the Eagles camp is one player in particular, and that's Nick Natanui. I haven't had the chance of seeing him live. I've seen him a few times on TV now, and gee, he's an excitement machine. I spoke last week about going to games of football and watching one particular player play the game. Last week I said Lance Franklin's the guy that I really enjoy going to watch play. As a person who was even playing with the Bulldogs at the time, I was almost enticed to go and watch other games of football when he was played, and I think we're going to get the same out of that young man again over the course of his career. 20 contested possessions he had last week. That's extraordinary, not only for anyone in the competition, but this guy's 6'6". So, well, what a star in the making. As I said, North Melbourne, they've got a blend of inexperienced players. I really like Jack Zeeble. I think he's a terrific young player. Swallows really come along. Grimmer, Anthony, really like Thompson down back. I think he's going to be a really important player for them in their development over the next coming years. One player I'm really interested to see how he's going to perform today is Daniel Wells. Daniel Wells has been spoken about a lot in the media, and I'm sure even in North Melbourne circles, about how do we get the best out of Daniel Wells. I actually think that maybe a change of expectations on Daniel Wells. I just don't know whether he's actually going to be the superstar Chris Judd, generator of the ball. I've seen with, we've all actually seen with Darren Davey at Melbourne how he's gone back to a half-back flank and been able to play from an opponent's toes and really take them on. And when they made that change last week with Aaron Davey going back to a half-back flank, well, it changed not only his fortunes but also the fortunes of Melbourne. And I'd actually really like to see Daniel Wells play in that type of position. Whether it does remains to be seen. Not only does the Eagles have Nick Natanui there, Josh Kennedy. Josh Kennedy has played some really good football of late. I think the first 2 weeks of the first 2 games of this year, he's been their outstanding player. Fantastic for him to play that brand of football, and his development is really coming along, considering he was part of the Judd deal, and really good to see him coming along in leaps and bounds. And that's really exciting, not only for Josh Kennedy but also for the Eagles. So I'm anticipating a pretty good contest. There's absolutely no doubt. I think there's going to be crash and bash early in the game. You know, concussed players at North Melbourne through the week, and John Worsfold, well, he didn't take a backward step in his playing, and don't expect the Eagles to take a backward step today. So we may see some more goals than last night's stand, but I'm expecting a pretty good contest.
Chris, I think you're right about about what we can expect. There's no doubt that both sides will be stung by performances like which, as you mentioned. It's been pretty well documented what has happened out at the Kangaroo Land this week, and no doubt that the coach has left them in no doubt as to what he wants in terms of attack on the footy. I might also think, you mentioned about John Worsfold, I think that he would be very, very disappointed because what's happened in their 2 games and their 2 losses, they've actually been in winning positions at 3/4 time. I can understand not beating Brisbane up in Brisbane, but to play at home, to be in a winning position and be overrun in the last quarter would gall him enormously. And I know they've had some injuries, but they've made 5 changes. 5 changes. North have made those. So I think we can expect, a very physical, I think a much better performance from both these sides. It certainly will be a contest from that point of view. I think that also it's not just the team performance, but you mentioned there Wells, but I think there is a number of players from both these sides who will be under the microscope because the reality is their performances haven't been up to scratch right at this point of time. You talked about Natanui. Natanui's probably given more of a role already this year because Dean Cox has struggled in that way. So we're looking at Cox. Daniel Kerr. I think Kerr hasn't really recaptured the brilliance. I know he's had some injuries, but I think that he was such a great player. The reality is probably 2 years ago, he was arguably one of the best, if not the most important player in the competition. He needs to lift. You talked about Wells, and I agree with everything you said. We've got to look at also Boomer Harvey, don't we? How's he going to react? He's been stung. What will he do on the field? And then the other thing to me is that one of the critical things about that is that who's going to kick the goals? I think the reality is that for both these sides, your inability to put that scoreboard pressure on him. I look from a North Melbourne perspective, David Hale, I don't know if he's the answer there, but they're persevering with him. They don't have a Petrie down there. I noticed that today what's happened is that they've got Edwards coming back to try and bolster their goal scoring. At the other end, Ashley Hansen, a premiership player up the forward line, has really struggled to cement a position in that side. So whether he can get there, they'll certainly be boosted by Lacroix coming back at this situation. And so often, Christian, you'll be better served than me because I never coached or played at this ground, but it seems to me again pivotal is just doing well out of the centre bounce. I mean, centre bounce clearances and stuff like that is going to be a massive one today.
Oh, huge. Yeah, you get the ball out of the middle here. It's a goal scoring opportunity. I'll be really interested to see how both teams play, whether they, and we heard Darren Crocker before the game say, well, we didn't have the want to take on the opposition last week. We went back into our shells. So I'll be really interested to see the attack on the ball, but also their ability to say, okay, I'm going to run, I'm going to carry, I'm going to take the space in front of me, and I'm going to try and get the ball forward as often as I possibly can. Whereas last week they just went completely sideways. They weren't willing to take risks. And the biggest mistake in football is not willing to take risks. And they didn't do that last week. So I'm sure we're going to see that from North Melbourne. One of the players that's really, we heard John Worsfold after the game last week say about Quentin Lynch. They've just decided, and I'm almost sort of pleased to hear from a coach say, okay, no matter what player you are, no matter how experienced you are, you need to do X for our team. And he's obviously said, okay, we've told you time and time again, Quentin Lynch, you haven't been able to do what you've got to go back and do it before you come back into our team. Don't be surprised if he's also said the same to Daniel Kerr and Dean Cox. Yes, they might have had interrupted pre-seasons.
Oh, I got a little bit already.
It's already started. And don't be surprised if he's also had a little chat in those guys' ears too.
Well, Dean Cox is starting on the bench, so he's already taking second fiddle to Natanui, which is interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And look, I think that's a big challenge, isn't it? McIntosh has been a top player. He can get around the ground. He can cover the distance. But I don't think he's in the same league as Natanui. So it'll be interesting. It will be Natanui's athleticism. But I think also that what could happen from that point of view is if you are able to play and position yourself in better positions, McIntosh can still be a pivotal player.
Tip.
I'm going for the Kangaroos.
I'm going to the Eagles, actually.
I'm West Coast Drew.
Yeah, Eagles.
Drew Morford on Grandstand AFL.
There's the bounce to get us underway. On Natanui right over the top. Palms it for Prittis. Eagles first into attack. All the way to full forward. A chance for Lacroix. Outnumbered 2-1. And the Kangaroos defence throw themselves in and Ferrito gets a free kick. He goes by hand and he gets the hand pass away to Rawlings and the Kangaroos work it out of defence. Rawlings floats the hand pass over the top. It's taken by Bastanak, first-year player, who delivers a pass up the ground, which is not great, but it bounces okay. Finishes up with Rawlings, who kept on going and is near the centre of the ground. He might get it back again. Harvey was going to be a free kick to the Kangaroos. Harvey wanted to take advantage, but the ball has got to come back, and the free kick is taken there by Wells, who goes out towards centre wing, where the mark's taken by Grimmer. Grimer kicks towards centre half forward. Edwards is there. Ball punched away. Comes down to the Eagles and they have a chance to rebound from halfback.
Oh, they've lost it. Mishandled the footy. Liam Anthony breaking through and he rolls the first goal home for the Kangaroos. They torch the Eagles on a horrible turnover at their defensive 50 and just over the minute mark. It's north of goal, west goes north.
Well, you can have the best game plans in the world and everything like that, but if you make skill errors and you turn the footy over, and especially if a side is getting numbers to the football, as we've seen with North Melbourne at that point in time, you are going to be punished, and Anthony is able to kick the goal. The thing that stands out to me straight away is that the North Melbourne side are not going to prop and cop. This is about run. It's about give the footy off, get numbers, give it to somebody if he's hot, knowing that you've got 2 or 3 going past. They've actually took the ball virtually from full length of the ground when there was really only one really effective kick in it until the last kick on goal. It was just done by run and carry, pushing numbers to the footy, so you can already get an imprint of what Scott has wanted this Kangaroo unit.
And Daniel Wells is playing in the back line on Luke Shuey, so pleased to see that.
Natanui and McIntosh. Natanui just jumped over the top the first time. Andy does it again, straight down to Prittis. Umpire got bowled over. Prittis kicks up to half forward. So Natanui having a profound influence at the first couple of bounces. It was marked by Shuey. He blasts to goal. Off hands. Mitch Brown had a play at it. Couldn't drag it in or get it to his boot. The first score the Eagles' way is a rushed behind.
Well, there's a set play there for North Melbourne because they're willing to play off their defensive, off their attacking opponents there. Looks like Daniel Wells is going to almost try and play as a loose man. I don't think that's a great thing for him. As I said, I think he needs to play on someone's toes and really get himself into the game.
Lockie Hansen takes the third mark after the kick in, after the behind. Hansen at half-back flank. He kicks up towards centre wing. Pack gathers, comes to the front to Swallow, the best and fairest from last year. Back to Harvey, who gets an early touch. On to Swallow, who kicks down the line, short of half forward, well delivered, and the mark's been taken by Wright. He kicks up towards centre half forward. Here come the Kangaroos. Thomas goes wide across the half forward line. He gets the ball wider to Urquhart, who's lost control of the ball, and the Eagles have it. Swift gets a little hand pass back. It comes to Adam Selwood, who ducks a high tackle. Might have taken a free kick. The umpire said play on, play on, play on. Nothing doing for the Eagles. Swift gets the hand pass out, and it comes to Schofield behind halfback. Forward to Natanui. Natanui gets it to Prittis, and Prittis gets it back from Selwood. Further afield to Glass. Kick by Glass is ugly, but it bounces okay. It comes up to Ebert, puts it wide to Lacroix, steers the pass inside the 50 onto the chest of Ash Hansen, who marks 48 metres from goal. Good move by the Eagles. So we've got Ashley Hansen returning to the Eagles side after starting the season in the waffle. Hansen on the Eagles forward line. We've got a Hansen on the Kangaroos back line. Hope they don't play on each other at some stage. It'll become very confusing for commentators. Ashley Hansen will be kicking from about 50 metres. Angle about 45 degrees. Roof closed. No reason why he shouldn't kick it. He steers it just outside the right-hand goalpost for a minor score. So the Eagles 2 behinds and North Melbourne 1 goal and we've been playing 4 minutes.
It's Lockie Hansen kicking in for the Kangaroos. Into the back pocket for Rawlings. Works his pass out to Harvey. They're only 20 metres from the defensive goal. A lot of curious eyes on Harvey this afternoon. He lobs the ball out to Ferrito. Play the broadcast side. If he stays here, hand passes to Harvey, floating round the back, and he distributes the ball on well.
He's already had more possessions than last week.
Yeah. Liam Anthony, the goal kicker, takes the mark. Goes the 25-metre pass further afield. Lee Adams dropped the mark that he should have taken, and then under pressure from Spanger, he's worked out of bounds. It's 6 plays 2 North in the early stages.
Umpies today, Scott McLaren, Robert Findlay and Troy Pennell. Here's the throw in right below the commentary box. Dean Cox in ruck, wins it. Natanui in the area, but it's taken by Waters, who hand passes to Embley. Back to Rosa. Rosa at right half forward, centres the ball. A good-looking kick. Comes off hands down to the front to Wells. He chooses the right option, I think. Harding under a little bit of pressure. Kick goes nowhere. It's grabbed here by Shuey for the Eagles. Gets it away to Cox, who pings towards goal in the goal square. It comes off hands, is knocked through by Rawlings for a rush behind. So the Eagles, 3 behinds. North Melbourne, 1 goal.
It's all being played at one end at the moment. That's the Coventry end to which the Eagles are attacking, but they have not hit the front. Kick in is marked by Scott Thompson for North. Wells follows up to receive the hand pass. He was barely moving off a standing start. He kicks 15 metres to Harding. Locked away in the defensive area. Lee Harding looks out to the wing. Oh, he's kicked that ball hopelessly. He's delivered it straight to Embley. Inside the 50 it comes. And Mitch Brown is leading to mark.
Just going to make a little comment about Wells there. He's playing loose in the back line. He got a soft kick given to him. He kicked the ball over to Harding and then stood still. Now, you just got to run. You've got to work, son. And I mean, Harding's kick was a shocker, but Wells should have been running then to provide something. He's just waltzing around.
Brown is angled left on the set shot, and he kicks the major. That was coming for certain. The Eagles are in front, 1-3-9. North Melbourne 1 straight, 6.5. Stan?
Chris wanted to say something.
I'll just back you up there, Stan, because I was also watching. I've taken a bit of a thing with myself today that I'd actually watch Daniel Wells and just see what he was doing off the ball, and he just stood there. He kicked at the Harding and just stopped. Now, the good players, if they want to get the ball in their hands, they take off, they try and find space, they view what's around them, and they get themselves into that spot to link up and be the next player that could possibly get another possession. But he stood there talking to the runner, and the ball went behind him and was kicked to Brown. So I'd like to see him play on someone. I think he's good at it, and he should be able to do it. So there's no excuses.
Bounce in the middle. Goldstein wins it. The ball comes down to Harvey, who actually leaves it for Swallow, who hand passes to Harvey, who's under pressure, but he was pushed in the back, said the umpire, and the free kick will go to Boomer Harvey against Dalziel, returning to Western Australia after 2 years in Brisbane. Hand pass off, and running past on the run is Ferrito. Kicks long towards full forward. Warren is down there, can't hang on, and the ball goes out of bounds in the forward pocket. And the Kangaroos have only been forward once prior to this. They kicked a goal. The Eagles are 1 goal 3, and we've been playing nearly 8 minutes. Just get down to Adam White in a moment here, as this throw-in's right in the teeth of goals here for the Kangaroos. Won by Hale, comes to Rosa, who flips the ball across to Waters of the Eagles in the last line of defence. Balks a hand pass, then gives one that's not all that flash to Dalziel. Away he goes to Jones. Jones's hand pass is blocked beautifully down there by Sam Wright, and the ball's out of play in the forward pocket. Whitey.
Drew, we've just been talking about Daniel Wells in his first 5 or so minutes. He's now taking a break on the bench, not to the phone, just for a little break.
Eagles by 3 points. Kangaroos have it deep forward. Lovely little tap. Kick out of the congestion. It was Bastanak with the flying shot. He has missed. 1-1-7 North, 1-3-9 West Coast. 8 minutes played of Saturday afternoon footy on Grandstand AFL. Almost making a meal of things coming out of defence. The Eagles, long kick down there to Cox. He couldn't hang on to the mark. Ground level ball to be won. Surely a free kick North Melbourne's way.
Other umpires seen it.
Yeah, so from a long way away. Who was it who got dragged out of there? I think it was Zeeble.
Silly boy.
Because the ball wasn't thrown back to Jack Zeeble. And he'll be marched to the goal square to make a certainty of it. This looks like a match between teams who haven't won games.
Yeah, Brad Ebert.
There's a bit of a blue on here on the centre wing.
Frito knocked over Adam Selwyn. Rose is taking retribution. The emergency umpire is out. A couple come to join the fight. Jack Zeeble has kicked the goal as the fracas breaks out 65 metres away. North lead by 4 points.
This is always going to happen at some stage, Jerry. That North Melbourne, training the way they did during the week, they're always going to want to do that at some stage. I'm not sure whether Frito timed it very well because Jack Zeeble was lined up for goal at the time. But anyway, they got away with it. It was goal scored.
And I think Selwyn was targeted because he's been picking up Harvey in the tagging type role. And I think that's...
it'll be a free in the middle rather than the umpy bouncing the ball, I think. It's going to be a free here to Ebert.
It's a chance to redeem himself over giving away that silly 50.
Gee, umpire McLaren's waiting a week, making sure all eyes are on him, and now he hands the ball to Ebert. It's 2-1 to 1-3. 4-point lead to North. The kick by Ebert. Natanui jumped a mile, nearly hit the roof. Ball's palmed down to the front. Oh, in goes Natanui. Lays a great tackle. That's terrific to see. And a shot out of there by Lacroix along the ground from about 15 metres out right in front. Misses to the left-hand side. He was under pressure. The Eagles 1-4, North 2-1.
Kick in a quick one. Marked by Anthony. Hand pass to Wills. Outside the defensive area to Harding. Took some of the heavy contact coming. Hand passes to Goldstein. They work it up to the wing now. Edwards is in close confines with Adams. They're under pressure. They've lost the ball. Glass the interception. Off to Prittis. Comes the way of Maston. He's under enormous pressure. Sweeping hand pass from Shuey. Play opened up. Spanger inside the 50. Lacroix wrestling was held on to by Scott McMahon. And Mark Lacroix to take the set shot directly in front. North turned the ball over around the city wing. They had 5 or 6 hand passes going in the chain. But it was the opposing skipper who asserted himself. It's whisked down into the hands of Lacroix. To do with the set shot, with what he missed on the snap a moment ago. Lacroix rides it home. And the Eagles return to the lead. 2-4-16 to North Melbourne, 2-1-13 after 12 minutes on Grandstand AFL.
And I think we're going to see a lot more of this afternoon, and that is if you turn the footy over, you're going to get punished. And the reason is because both sides are just playing risk-taking football, playing at all costs, run, handball, look for the handball, expect numbers to be there. Now, that's great, and it's a fantastic spectacle. Both sides are doing it, but already we've seen with both sides, if you make an error in disposal, the other side just catch you. And already we've got an off-the-ball situation. An umpire has now found a free kick, and I think it was against Natanui for elbowing, and so it's a free kick again. Now it's North Melbourne out of the centre. Up the ground, taken by Goldstein.
He gets the hand pass away to Wells, who's now on the ball. He kicks to full forward, nearly a mark. A player held. North free kick right in front of goal. Hamish McIntosh to take the free kick for the Kangaroos. A big leap by David Hale. Didn't quite come down with the mark, but McIntosh interfered with, jumper held in the pack. So McIntosh to kick for goal. 3 points is the lead to the West Coast Eagles, and the free kicks have gone to North 6-2 early in the game. Been playing 13 minutes. McIntosh steers the goal from in front and 25 metres out. North regain the lead, 3-1 to 2 goals for.
Well, a goal scored there to North Melbourne, but I just want to make a comment. I'll just go back 30 seconds in play. Nick Natanui gave what the umpire deemed to be a free kick. This is where the umpires, I think, sometimes get themselves into trouble. Scott Thompson plays very aggressively. He elbows constantly. He pushes constantly. The first time Nick Natanui goes to do the same back to him, a free kick. Now, yes, Scott Thompson probably milked it, but there wasn't a free kick there. It's really important, I think, that the umpires pay what's there and don't pay what's not there, because, you know, that's not in the spirit of the rule, really.
Chris Grant of Grandstand AFL, back in the middle. North Melbourne by 3 points. Cox and Goldstein. The tap comes the way of Wills, who breaks out onto the left boot. Bumbles the ball up to the attacking 50. No clean possession. Marston for the Eagles works it back to Waters. He gives a little ground, and now Adam Selwood with a chance to bring it out. He doesn't. He goes backwards into the pocket. Glass across the face of goal. So the Eagles get themselves into a bit of a spot. They've conceded a lot of territory, and it's Will Schofield who has to be precise with his boot. He is. Brown brings them out to the wing on the bouncing ball. Getting onto it is Marston. Ash Hansen leads full-chested, and it's drilled into the breastbone. He looks to fall forward. Kennedy's going back. He's got company, and it's Grimer who makes the spoil, puts it out of play in the right forward pocket for the Eagles.
Well, he needed a longer kick than Ashley Hansen, didn't he?
And a better directed one.
Yeah, it was a poor kick.
The throw-in gets the ball back into the centre corridor. Cox in ruck, wins. He's stood up in the tackle by Swallow. And Dean Cox desperate to find some form after starting off very ordinarily in the first 2 rounds. Here's a bounce now, about 40 metres from goal. Won by Goldstein. He works it down to Swallow. Off to Wells, playing on the ball and getting a few touches. And he gets another one, having received a hand pass from Rawlings. The pass straight up the ground is well delivered, and Ryan Bastamak takes the mark. Taken in the second round of the draft last year, just an 18-year-old. He comes out wide to Urquhart. He kicks over the wing, down towards half forward. Warren's bowled over before the ball arrives. And at the back, it's taken by Glass for the Eagles, who squares the ball across the half-back line to Waters. Fires away the hand pass to Scott Selwood. Back to Waters, running backwards. Dangerous kick, potentially, but he delivered it okay, and the mark has been taken by Spanger.
He has an adventurous run through half-back, had a bounce, kicked for Kerr, overshot the target. Harvey at the back cleans up for North Melbourne. Gives it off to McMahon, delivers into the centre of the ground. Zeeble marks and spreads to the left. Urquhart floats it off to Harvey, dashes to centre half forward, kicks for the square. Warren stands front on contacts. Ben Warren's free kick at the top of the square.
That's more like it, Kangaroos, and they're running from everywhere to pat Boomer Harvey on the back and on the head.
And that was a good kick, Drew, because that's what we commented about Ashley Hansen. Ashley Hansen had a very similar kick with players running into space over the back, and he didn't make it. Boomer Harvey, beautiful kick over the back and put the West Coast Eagles defender under enormous pressure, and he forced a free kick.
7 touches already for Harvey, Stan.
Yeah, it's just a different player, isn't he? And, of course, the other thing is that they're released him through the midfield. That's the other point, instead of just camp him down the forward pocket.
He's been a work in progress for quite some time, Ben Warren. Just his 12th game this afternoon. The Kangaroos need him to be a forward target. He should goal from close range, and he does. For the first time, the lead is out beyond a goal. It's North Melbourne 4-1-25, leading West Coast 2-4-16. We've gone 17 minutes on the boundary. Here's Adam White.
Daniel Wells off for his second break already, 7 possessions. What I find fascinating is now, having spoken to Darren Crocker before the game, he gave us a real insight into the planning for this week. And already you see so many boxes ticked, whether it be the intensity of North Melbourne, taking the game on, the improved form of Brent Harvey. They seem to be doing what the coaches wanted them to from during the week, Stan and Chris.
The 7 possessions to Harvey. I wonder how many Daniel Kerr's had. Not very many.
Daniel Kerr hasn't had any possessions.
Didn't think so.
Right, the bounce back in the middle. 4-1 to 2 goals for North in front. Natanui a big leap, but McIntosh, I might give the hit out to him, but it comes at ground level to Natanui, who fires back the hand pass, and a little kick out wide by Swift is taken up here by Brown. Kick by Brown, awkward for Ebert, but he takes a good stretching mark. Hand pass over the top to Selwood. Kick by Selwood from 48 out, right to the goal square. A juggle attempted a mark in the square and rushed through by the Kangaroos as they dive over the line to score the rugby try and rush the behind. That was Thompson doing that. 3 rush behinds for the Eagles.
Kick in finds Rawlings, left back pockets. Eagles have their zone pretty well set. 3 lines, so over the top goes McMahon, who's not clear. He gives it to Lockie Hansen. He gives the one over the top to Warren, who's absolutely barreled by Brown. That move broke down quite badly for North. The Eagles trapped the ball against the boundary, 65 from goal.
I think the Eagles are starting to wake up that they're going to handball all costs North, and so there's no good sitting off them. You've got to come at them.
Nat Nui clearly wins the tap. He hooks it into open play. Brave was Zeeble flinging himself at it. He knocked it to North's advantage. Ferrito up the wing. The Eagles had the numbers at the contest. Embley's able to gather. Gives it to Jones. Up now to Rosa. Kick was smothered from the side by Lindsay Thomas, and the turnover is affected. Rawlings works it around. Zeeble another touch. Ferrito. Rawlings dragged out of play by Prittis. They can't escape off half back. North by 8.
"25 plays 17. North in front. Both teams looking for their first win. Natanui has a bit of a wrestle with McIntosh. The ball comes underfoot. Rawlings is in there, throws himself at it. It squirts out the back door to Kerr, who gets a touch. Yeah, we'll give him a hand pass out of there. Off to Waters. Further hand pass to Embley. Up the ground for Rosa, who has a fumble. Taken by Ferrito. 20-metre hand pass down the line. And pushing them back here to the Kangaroos. And they'll take a free kick. Sam Wright take the kick right at the interchange gate, centre wing, dock side of the ground. North 4-1. Lead the Eagles 2-5. And we've been playing 20 minutes opening term.
Wright's been given a good grounding at VFL level. His kick here is smothered. A poor effort. Rowan Jones is able to make the steal. He sends them up to half forward. Brett Jones shoots home, living in the pass there. Cox gives it to Kennedy from the pocket, and Kennedy slots the second goal, the third goal for West Coast. He hasn't missed this year. 3-5-23 to 4-1-25. North with the 2-point advantage.
Well, he did well then, Brad Jones from the Eagles. He made the mistake early of going too hard at right and pushed him clearly in the back. He made up for it, made a great smother, and Dean Cox kept his feet. The next kick that went down to Dean Cox, he kept his feet importantly. And we spoke about Josh Kennedy before the game. What a great little thing for him. He's coming out of his shell. He's becoming the player that Carlton always thought he would be. And I'm really pleased for him because he's been part of such a high-profile trade with Chris Judd. Obviously, the Eagles were pretty keen to get him, and now we're just starting to see why.
Tight game. North lead by 2 points. Oh, Natanui over the top. Kerr changes direction and falls over without getting another possession. The ball now underfoot. Squeezed out by Prittis to Rosa. Rosa's kick not much distance, but it's marked on the run here by Ebert. His kick is smothered outside the 50. Worked out by Swallow for the Kangaroos. Hand pass to Harvey. He kicks out wide towards the wing. Will it sit there? It does for Wells. He gracefully gathers it out of the air and passes to half forward. Well done, and Hale marks about 70 metres from goal. Wells goes past for the second effort. Hale doesn't over the mark came the man on the mark. It is against Will Schofield and a 50-metre penalty to Hale. North have taken the advantage and have kicked a goal, but umpire Scott McLaren saying no. David Hale, you come up. Here is the mark about 15 metres from goal, and this will be the Kangaroos' 5th goal, and I reckon maybe 4 of them from free kicks. At least 3.
Pretty tough 50, that one. I don't know that he crept over by much, did he, Drew?
No, I thought, well, the hand pass was going to come out to Wells and we were going to applaud him for his second effort to give and go. Anyway, he was nipped in the bud, and now David Hale. It looks as though he's had a rethatch over the summer. He kicks from about 20 metres and drop punts the goal. Kangaroos 5-1 lead the Eagles 3-5. Adam White.
Feeling that 50 was against Prittis because he was too close to David Hale. He was shaping to hand pass over the top to Wells, but didn't go off his mark, and Prittis became too close. So I think that's why the 50 was paid.
Drew, there's been 31 marks taken in this game, and that was the first contested. North Melbourne have 19 uncontested marks, West Coast 11. That just shows you. And I haven't got the stats, but I would suggest that most goals at this point of time have come about because of errors or because of 50-metre penalties and things like that. We haven't yet really seen I suppose the Kennedy one I'd put down as a legitimate one.
Stan Ells and Chris Grant on grandstand to AFL. Goldstein wins the tap in the middle. It comes the way of Anthony. His kick was partially smothered. It's gathered there by Swift for the Eagles. Works his hand pass around to Spanger. They try to combine out of defence. Getting overly enthusiastic was Wright, who laid a tackle, buried players into the ground. They'll come out. Spanger kicks it wide for Schofield for the Eagles. He didn't take possession. Rosa did to Adam Selwood and back. Oh, just a bumbling little ball. They're stuck here on the wing, the Eagles. Delzeel works it around with Adam Selwood. Beyond halfway, Brown flies, left it behind. Pretty ordinary turnover. Ferrito gives it to Anthony. McMahon almost knocked off his kick. Gathered by Wright in the midfield. They've got the extra man on the overlap. Goldstein puts it inside the 50. He missed Warren. Flung himself at it like it was a grenade. He's caught over the top of it and will be penalised as such.
I don't know what he's complaining about. He just did a swan dive under the ball. I mean, keep your feet, son. Pick the ball up.
Free kick taken by Glass. He goes back to Spanger in the defensive goal square. He kicks over the half-back flank and the mark's taken by Adam Selwood. Hand pass to Rosa. He steers the pass and this time Brown marks alongside the circles in the centre of the ground. Eagles going left to right of your radio dial in the first quarter. He kicks it across to the city side of the ground where Embley takes the mark. Hand pass to Cox going past. The ruckman playing role of Rober. And his kick is very disappointing. Drops in short and the mark is taken by Grimer.
Who grabbed his shoulder.
Yeah, he shots away a little gingerly. He's going to get the footy back from Wells and Grimer has to deliver it outside the defensive 50. Mark was taken by Lockie Hansen, gives it on to Anthony. They play hard against the boundary. Warren offers himself, takes the mark and gets the contact from Glass. Sideways with a short kick to Lockie Hansen, barely 15 but paid. And he turns and sends it 40 metres back toward the defensive goal for Grimer.
He doesn't want it. He's got a crook shoulder.
Across the face of goal for Thompson. They do work the loose man on the broadcast side. It's Ferrito. Full stretch. Takes the one-handed mark. Delivers north into the forward line. He's kicking over the top of everyone. Edwards kept his eye on it. Took the mark with the flight. Wheels onto the right boot. Places the pass well. Goldstein has not paid the mark. The Eagles tidy up. It's Waters who kicks to Maston. Straight down the corridor they come. Kennedy marks low down forward of the middle. He'll look inside the 50 and kick it into the man on the mark. It's woeful stuff.
Rawlings kicks out wide towards centre wing. Harding takes the mark, metres in the clear. He steers the pass to Hale, who gets one in the back, dropped the mark, but this time Spanger has been free kicked about 48 metres from goal. Will this be another Kangaroos goal from a free kick? A kick 5-1, the Eagles 3 goals 5, an 8-point lead to North in time on first quarter. And David Hale is a walking advertisement for that haircut, isn't he? Magnificent thatch.
We are playing at Etihad, remember? Don't they re-thatch it every week here? Maybe they're just doing the same.
Good sun protection if he happens to go to the Gold Coast. Gold Coast lad. He kicks from about 50 metres on the paint. The drop punt is beautiful. And David Hale kicks perfectly and gets his second goal. And the Kangaroos go to 6-1, leading the Eagles 3 goals 5, and would play 27 minutes in the opening term.
Well, Jared, I think you said woeful at one stage there, and Stan, almost every goal has been scored by something shocking happening, whether it's a skill error or a free kick or a 50-metre penalty. One day soon, or 1 minute soon, we might get a goal scored out of good skill and an earned goal. But, gee, there's been some big turnovers.
It's North by 14 points into the latter stages of the opening term. Swallow and Priddis side by side in the middle. Kerr is in there. He's got Zeeble for company. The ruckman Goldstein and Cox. Priddis barrels his way through. Hand passes to Cox. Gives it off to Ebert. Wide to the 50. Bouncing ball. Lacroix did well. Off a step. Steadies himself. There's something good. That's outstanding goal kicking from Mark Lacroix. The Eagles needed it too. 4-5-29. North Melbourne 6-1-37.
Yeah, they really did. I just made a little note for myself, and I think that sometimes when sides have put so much into this and almost so much at stake, we've got to rebound, we must win, things like that. I just feel that the tenseness amongst the playing group, they're trying to do the right thing, but they're tight and they're making mistakes, and it really just needed some composure. And I thought that Lacroix just showed that then. That was just absolutely fantastic. Got round there, settled himself down, just did what he can do well, and it was a lovely drill goal. I think also that they'd be pleased, West Coast, that Cox has just started to get some involvement. There's been some run in his legs, he's been tapping the ball, and then he's had 5 possessions, but it's really been good involvement as he wins another tap out.
But the ball comes down to the Kangaroos, who lose it just as fast. Embley dispossessed. It comes to Zeeble. Back he goes with the hand pass and kicked by Harding deep inside the 50. Up there is McIntosh. No mark, but he follows up with a hand pass to Thomas. Drops it red hot in the tackle, and the whistle's gone, and he's been free kicked, and the tackler is Dalziel, the West Aussie who played a couple of seasons with the Brisbane Lions and back in Western Australia, formerly of East Fremantle. With the free kick, he goes across the ground where the mark is taken by Schofield. Geelong boy playing for the Eagles. Up to Cox, back to Schofield. He draws a man. Oh, well done by Goldstein, who got in there to intercept the hand pass and knock the ball out of play. It's going to be open slather for the Eagles had he not done that. 29 and a half gone, 37 to 29, an 8-point lead to the Kangaroos.
Ball on the broadcast wing. Goldstein and Natanui. Goldstein got his fingertips to it, knocked it to the back. Jones overran it for West Coast. Kerr will get the opportunity to guide the pass out to Marston. Delivers up to the 50. Beautiful ball. Kennedy is able to mark 50 from goal. He goes out onto the left boot. He's kicked this for Ash Hansen. It clears him. Free kick. Advantage. 3 goals for Lacroix in the early stages. He is a welcome sight back for the Eagles. Ash Hansen earned it. He drew the contacts. The Eagles have pegged North Melbourne back. 2 points in it, close to quarter time. North 6-1-37. West Coast 5-5-35.
Well, he's a class player, Lacroix. He's good in the air. He's a beautiful kick, but he's very, very smart. He can play tall and he can play small, and that time he had to play small. Ashley Hansen run underneath the ball, and Scott Thompson ran under it also, but he knew where the ball was going to drop, and he dropped onto it beautifully, and playing was called. I think free kick was called to Ashley Hansen, but play on and ran into an open goal. He's a class player.
Another goal from a free kick. There have been a lot of them. 6-1 to 5-5, 2 points the margin. A bounce in the middle. Natanui climbs magnificently and receives the hand pass back. Forward he goes to Prittis, sweeps it wide to Marston. Little hand pass back to Jones, who kicks up towards half forward. Kennedy on the lead, can't quite hang on. Hansen's in there. Comes North's way. The hand pass goes wide. Urquhart comes out to Harvey, concedes some ground, back to Rawlings, who's played a blinder. Up to Harvey, back to Urquhart. Oh, nearly pulled off the hand pass, but he's lost it anyway. Prittis intercepts, sweeps the hand pass to Ebert, 55 from goal. Across half forward to Hansen, and Ashley Hansen marks about 49 metres from goal. We might get a goal here from a mark. Hansen's gone deep back into the centre square at the top of his run-up, and Wells is going to run at him and time his run to the mark. See if he can leap up there and touch this off the boot. He goes Hansen, 51 metres out from goal. That is a glorious drop punt. And Clark's little boy Ashley Hansen gets the goal, and the Eagles have hit the front. 6-5 to 6 goals won.
Well, that will please John Worsfold the last few minutes, and certainly wouldn't Brad Scott, because at the 27-minute mark, I mean, when you're talking in time on late in a game, the critical thing is to actually play every second and every minute of that quarter out, and West Coast has. They've kicked 3 goals in that period of time in a little 5-minute patch to actually get the lead back, whereas Hale had kicked his 2 at the 26-minute mark. Looked to have the game in control, but because of that fact that West Coast have played so well, pushed numbers, and they'd be very pleased that Hansen is presenting extremely well at centre half forward and full forward.
Stan Els with Chris Grant on grandstand to AFL. The tap goes North Melbourne's way. Down to Harvey from McIntosh. He kicks up to the 50. Thomas sprawled himself at the mark. He didn't bring it in. He turns tackler. Overly enthusiastic North Melbourne there. Again, they've given up a free kick, and it's going to be taken by Scott Selwood, who was pushed in the back.
Oh, another 50.
And now a 50-metre penalty against North.
Boy, have the umpires played a role in this quarter of footy.
So everybody trots 50 metres down the field. It will return to the possession here of Scott Selwood. The mark will be set 50 from goal. Selwood goes without hesitation. He was looking for Ash Hansen. Heavy work done there by McMahon to avert the initial danger for North, and they'll get out of it. Swallow delivers to half-back for how long? Schofield went at the man, not the ball. Siren ends the opening stanza. It's West Coast by 4 points, 6-5-41 over North Melbourne, 6-1-37. Everything not quite done yet. It's just a little bit of a tete-a-tete in the West Coast forward line. The umpires move in to separate 3 defenders from 3 aggressors. Goal kickers for West Coast, 3 for LaCroix. Singles to Brown, Kennedy and Ash Hansen. For North Melbourne, 2 for Hale. Singles to McIntosh, Anthony, Warren and Zeeble. At the first change, it's the Eagles by 4 points. Adam White, plenty else happening in the football world. What do you know?
That's right, Jared, and significant news I've got for you, because Nick Riewoldt has emerged from his scans down at Vic House in Paran, and I can report that it is a serious tendon injury. It's not off the bone, but a serious tendon injury, so it's a lot more serious than what was initially thought last night. So how long that means he's out for, I'm a little unclear at this stage, because he's only just emerged from Vic House. There's plenty of media down there, as you could imagine. He cut a fairly dejected figure when he left. But just repeating the news, with Nick Riewoldt, he's had his scans. He has a serious hamstring tendon injury. It's not off the bone, which means he should be back this year. But it's just a question of how long he's on the sidelines. So certainly a developing story, and we'll hopefully have more on that throughout the course of the afternoon.
This is Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio, Radio Australia, and streaming at afl.com.au.
From the writers of Peep Show and The Thick of It comes a comedy about settling into old age with style.
Tell them about yourself. Pretty funny. Not too much, though. People switch off.
As seen on ABC One and new to DVD, The Old Guys takes a fresh look at retirement and the joys of never acting your age.
I'm playing an online drinking game with some students. They think I'm 26 and a woman.
I wouldn't go to that party now if she begged me.
I would.
The Old Guys is available from ABC Shops, Centres and ABC Shop Online.
Grandstand AFL.
Oh, they've lost it. Mishandled the footy. Liam Anthony breaking through, and he rolls the first goal home for the Kangaroos. Emergency umpire is out.
They're coming from everywhere.
Jack Zeeble has kicked the goal as the fracas breaks out 65 metres away.
50 metres on the paint. The drop one is beautiful. And David Hale kicks perfectly and gets his second goal.
50, bouncing ball. LaCroix did well. Off a step, steadies himself. There's something good. That's outstanding goal kicking from Mark LaCroix. He's kicked this for Ash Hansen. It clears him. Free kick. Advantage. 3 goals for LaCroix in the early stages.
51 metres out from goal. That is a glorious drop punt. And Clark's little boy Ashley Hansen.
Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio.
North had the lead as far as 14 points. West Coast kicked the last 3 of the term to lead by 4 at the first change. Stan Elves and Chris Grant.
Well, the game's evenly poised, and it's been quite an interesting game to watch, because both sides, certainly this is not about hold the footy up and prop and cop. This is about just take them on, the kamikaze type football, run and share, handball, try and get numbers of the footy, see if we can push through the other side, open them up and score. And both sides were just doing that and doing it at willy-nilly. Of course, the thing that's going to happen in that situation is you're going to get errors which will occur, and both sides, I think, they're impetuous. I think I'd use that saying, because they were trying so hard. We were getting mistakes and errors and things like that, and it was interesting because enormous number of possessions by a lot of players, but a lot of them were uncontested. We saw Wells and Harvey, for example, playing more in the back half for the Kangaroos. They were racking up the balls. Prittis got a lot of his. He had about 10 possessions in the back half. Waters playing in the back line, so a lot of possessions which were picked up in those areas. But to me, the feature really was the fact that so much of the scoring, I suppose, for 3/4 of that first quarter came out because of errors and then turnover, and not only that, because of probably some silly little free kicks and little tiggy-touched ones that turned into 50-metre penalties and were able to give goals to each side. I thought that the Kangaroos had really broken the game open when Hale kicked a couple of goals at the 22-minute and 26-minute mark, playing down the forward line, took a couple of good grabs and kicked them. I thought that they just got the ascendancy and they looked really good. But I give credit to West Coast. West Coast just kept at it. Cox getting some good possession through the midfield. Prittis getting on top of his game in there. Hansen presenting a little bit better up in the forward line. And it was LaCroix, though. LaCroix kicked 2 goals very quickly. He's a very, very smart player. Hansen kicked one at the 32-minute mark. And all of a sudden, when I thought that North were on top, it's West Coast have gone in with the lead. So it'll be interesting for me, Chris, because I'll be looking for, and I'm sure both coaches will be saying, look, I love what you did, but now we've just got to set a little bit more composure and let's make sure our possessions count.
Well, it's been really interesting, Stan, because it's hard to tell of the two teams who's actually going to go away with it, because the goals that have been scored, as you made mention of, they've been scored because of either free kicks or 50-metre penalties, and really until Lacroix kicked those really classy goals towards the end. And Hanson's, I guess I'd throw Hanson's in there. He kicked that outside 50. It was a beautiful goal. Really, up until then, both sides were willing to take it on. There was a bit of kamikaze footy. No doubt that the intent of both teams was there, and both coaches would be pretty pleased with that. Of the individual players, I think it's great that Harvey started well. You mentioned that, Stan, even before the game started, that Harvey's performance last week was below par. We spoke about Cox. I think Cox is actually, out of the two ruckmen, out of Natanui and Cox, I think Cox is the one that's actually really stood up. Daniel Kerr, I think is in an unfortunate position, because Daniel Kerr had the cousins and had the Judds around him, and really he's got to try and take that on his own while there's young guys around him. And Pritis is really the only experienced player that can help him out there at the moment. So he's had 2 possessions at the moment, Daniel Kerr. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fights this one out.
The Eagles by 4 points. Start of the second term at Docklands. Natanui again, the opening tap. Down to Pritis. Handball, though, knocked down. They don't make anything of it, North. There will be a free kick, though. Swallow was able to make the initial interception, and as the waves part here, Waters is down. He's very slow to rise. Inside the 50, go North Melbourne. Markers taken by Edwards. Out on a strong lead. It's a good kick from Liam Anthony to put it in that direction. Aaron Edwards twirls the footy as he backs away. Stop-start lead career. He is a goal kicker at times from 49. He lays into this quite superbly and splits the middle. Returns North to the lead. 7-1-43 to West Coast 6-5-41.
We get a centre clearance, and good mark to Aaron Edwards. It's not the strength of his game to mark overhead like that, to be honest, on a lead, but he did that really well and finished beautifully. So that's a confidence booster for him, and nice to see the game start with some free-flowing footy and some good skill involved.
And by the way, Boomer Harvey, leading possession winner on the ground in the first quarter. He had 12. And a good start for the Kangaroos in the second term. Natanui faces off against McIntosh. Straight up goes the bounce. Ball comes down. Terrific tackle laid on Shuey in the middle. Here come the Kangaroos again. Bouncing ball grabbed by Warren just outside the 50. Off to McIntosh, who passes towards full forward. Not great for the forwards, this one. They scrap at ground level. Taken by Glass, who slings out a hand pass. It's grabbed there by Shuey. Intercepted by Harvey, but he's turned it over again to Pritis. He's turned it over again. Warren gets a little ball high towards full forward. Off hands it goes, just outside the goal square. Magnificent tackle laid by Harding, and it is rushed through for a minor score by Waters. And North go to 7 goals. 7-2-44, leading the Eagles 6-5-41.
Schofield is kicking in. He delivers to Spanger. It's up pretty well the middle of the ground. Puts it under the chest of Delzeal, who's spread left now for Maston. So they'll come up the broadcast side. Ash Hansen on a nice lead, up at the centre line.
Now we've got Hansen on Hansen.
Nice. Oh, Ash's kick is a poor one. He's delivered it straight to Brent Harvey. Flicks the hand pass away. Now Hansen is the tackler coming at Bastanak, who's good enough to get it off to Liam Anthony from long range. He'll land the bomb. Liam Anthony with his second, and North Melbourne spirits revived by the quarter-time break. They've put up back-to-back goals. 8-2-50 to 6-5-41.
Well, we keep saying this time and again for our listeners out there, when sides will push up the ground, they'll push all the numbers. There's no genuine structure, we know before. They talk about the presses and things like that. It means probably your last line of defence is somewhere near half-back. If you can actually get some run and carry and deliver it to somebody, what you need then is you need somebody with the ability to be able to kick long and direct, and that's exactly what we saw there. Anthony was able to get the footy from about 50 metres out, looked up, nobody within 30 metres of the goal, because all West Coast had come forward, and it was a glorious kick over the top.
and through for goal.
Oh, Natanui in the middle down to Prittis. That's classical. Kick by Prittis inside the 50, but it's taken in defence by Rawlings. His hand pass just out of there anywhere. Goes to Dalziel of the Eagles, but he's given it up. Bastanak gets a little kick off the left, bumbles along the ground. It is taken by the goal scorer. No, taken by Zeeble in the middle of the ground. He kicks towards the circles, and the mark's taken by Selwood. Adam Selwood, little hand pass behind to Rosa. He advances the ball to half forward, and Kennedy marks front edge of the centre square. Josh Kennedy raking drop punt right to the goal square, but marked in defence by the Kangaroos, and the mark taken by Thompson.
He plays on out of fullback. Scott Thompson delivers the short pass to Ferrito. Needs runners. Sees Rawlings going out to the left. Delivers his kick in that direction. Rawlings can't find the next option. He's giving ground. Hand passes it back to Ferrito. 3 after him. But he hoofs it up the city wing. Edwards comes over the top. Takes a clunking mark. He'll play on from the centre line. No, he thinks better of it. And waits. Edwards now kicks it into the man on the mark. How many times has that happened this afternoon already? Schofield completes the interception off to Natanui and Dalziel. Ball comes into the middle of the ground. Prittis, Marston, hand pass to Waters, caught in a tackle. Rosa crashes in, coming the other way was right. Pretty honest contest. Ball is locked up under them. And it will be bounced in the centre square. It's North by 9 points.
Yep, pretty lively by two teams chasing their first win of the season. 9-point lead to the Kangaroos, and we've been playing 5.5 minutes in the second quarter. Hale leads into Natanui. Nick Nat gets his hand to the ball though. Comes down to Prittis. Finishes up with Embley, who takes a high tackle against Swallow, and the kick disappeared up the ground. Brown took the mark, a relayed free. Brown to Hanson, who takes the mark on the lead. Ashley Hanson for the Eagles. He's about 65 metres out from goal. He's got Kennedy in the goal square, who pushes off and leads towards the pocket. Hanson goes out into the corridor. Not great for the forwards and all the defenders there. And the mark is paid to the Kangaroos to Hanson. So it was Hanson to Hanson.
Lockie gives his hand pass at fullback for North to Harvey. Kicks them outside the defensive 50, and Grimer is taking the mark. And a lot of movement ahead of him. Warren's on the long lead. The short lead is offered by Adams. It's popped in that direction. Last time he played against West Coast, he kicked 3 goals and had 20 disposals. His best game so far. Chips the ball to Brent Harvey. Out to Wells, painstaking, zigzagging with each of these 15-metre kicks. Still at right half-back, North protecting a 9-point lead. Short pass forward to Grimer, hand pass to Lockie Hanson, under pressure. Embley comes at him, makes sure the Kangaroo can't walk away with the footy. Zeeble against the boundary, holds it in, did really well. Got it back to Lockie Hanson, but he's turned it over. Scott Selwood works it to Cox, to Marston, around to Scott Selwood and Cox. They're going round in a square, but they're out. They're out through Adam Selwood, West Coast, not for long. He's picked out Ferrito.
Michael Ferrito just inside the centre square. Across the ground he goes, and the mark's taken by Rawlings, and he kicks over the wing, and on the city side the mark to Edwards. There's the one tattooed sleeve. Passes the ball up the ground off by foot to Harvey, who centres it to centre half forward, and Swallow takes the mark on his chest right on the paint of 50. Andrew Swallow goes back outside the corridor with not much advantage in distance, and Edwards has taken another mark.
You just see West Coast, they're trying to play a zone, but when you're not very good at it, you just get totally disorientated.
Short into Wells, who leaps up and takes the chest mark. Wells playing in the long sleeves under the closed roof, and now he's 40 metres out. So they zigzagged it and worked it pretty well.
I might think in the West Coast box now somebody's saying, do you think we should perhaps tag Harvey? Because it worked last week and we're playing off him today and he's getting a few touches.
17 touches to Harvey.
Only 17, oh, okay.
Jared Cameron on the stats. Daniel Wells for goal. Hits the right-hand goalpost for a behind. North 8-3 lead the Eagles, 6 goals, 5. 8 minutes played second quarter.
They've done all the scoring in the term so far. Schofield entrusted with the kick in. He's going to have to kick it as far as he can because there was no short options. Ferrito against Rosa. Ferrito will get the free kick here. Rosa was hanging onto his arm. North to attack again. No, Nat Nui read the play beautifully. Takes the intercepting mark. He goes for Lacroix on the city wing. Set him a bit of a task. North with the numbers. McMahon is able to gather. They come forward. Leaning in as Hale. Couldn't take the mark. That's okay because Nat Nui is there for the Eagles again. Hand pass to Schofield. Try to elude the tackler. Couldn't. Hand passes it off under pressure to Spanger. Across goal. Real big danger here. Lee Adams the interception. He misses out with the snap at goal. Didn't get sufficient curl on the ball. And that's a big let off for West Coast. North by 11.
Had a bit more time than he knew then. Selwood kicks in for the Eagles outside the 50. Cox middle of the pack. Punch away by Rawlings, who was lifted mightily today. Ball on the ground. And that will be a free kick, the umpire's seen. Over a shoulder free kick. To North. Swallow the hand pass. Back he goes to Anthony. A high ball inside centre half forward. Edwards up. Can't take the mark. Scott Selwood taken down in a very good tackle. Nearly worth a free kick in front of goal. The umpire comes in and will ball it up. Lindsay Thomas laid a beauty. Unrewarded. The umpire takes charge and will bounce it only about 15 metres out from goal. Cox and Goldstein. Goldstein wins the hit out. Comes down to Prittis, who gets the hand pass away to Swift. Up towards half back they go. Off the ground, Wells, good hands. Back he goes to Harvey. Harvey gets it back in the old 1-2 with McIntosh and kicks it all the way back towards centre wing, where Grimer takes the mark, advances the ball, and the pass inside 50 is beautiful, and Edwards takes the mark. He nearly hugged the air out of the ball to take the chest mark.
Actually, you're right about the zone of West Coast, Stan. They're just getting picked apart at the moment, aren't they? And Chris, I noticed them, Chris, that there's a lot of finger pointing. You should be here. Look at them now. You should be there. And blokes are running into each other. And one thing you don't want in your defensive area is have two of your teammates standing side by side.
Aaron Edwards, he can kick a footy. He kicked a ton in the VFL, and that sails through for his second goal this quarter. And North, a 9-4-58, leading the Eagles 6-5-41.
Yeah, and this is what's happening, is that they've just controlled the ball at ground level. They've really settled down. Now, I talked about the over-anxious in that early, but they've just become a lot cleaner with their footy. They're whipping the ball around and giving the old 1-2. And as the footy's coming to the forward line, we just keep saying there are so many West Coast Eagles blokes worried about where they should be. It's creating an enormous amount of holes there. And Aaron Edwards is just having a picnic at the moment. He's been able to go up the ground, attack it. Couldn't believe he's lucked in. He ran into a spot, you just couldn't believe, ran into a spot 30 metres out, right in front of the goal. If there's one spot you do not leave vacant, it's there.
And the mark's inside 50 in this quarter, 5-0 to the Kangaroos.
The lead's the biggest that it has been at 17 points. In the middle, McIntosh probably got his hands to it, but the umpire's going to determine the centre clearance by paying a free kick to Prittis. Footy skewed away a little. Prittis gives his hand pass to Scott Selwood, who steams by, puts the Eagles inside 50. Embley tried to make the play. McIntosh very heavily involved as he knocks over Delzeal. The ball doesn't emerge. And it's 50 out from the Eagles' goal, where it hasn't been for much of the term, and to be bounced. Whitey?
Just keep your eye on Beau Waters. He spent the last 10 minutes with the doctors on the bench. He's coming back out on the field. Not convinced he's 100% fit.
Prittis tries again. Rawlings. They work it around North Melbourne and they'll get out of it. Anthony delivers it out. Kick up to the wing. Chest mark drops. Pressure applied by Swift. It was Wright who made the mistake. Prittis works it around now. Delzeal has a touch. Embley out the back to Scott Selwood. Gives some ground at half back. Looking up ahead now is Schofield. Sideways they go. The Eagles. It's pretty painstaking stuff. Jones has it.
And the Kangaroos just made a triple interchange. Gee, they're on and off. Across the half-back line come the Eagles, and the mark's taken by Tom Swift, teenager. 10 games last year on debut. He's kicked, chopped off by Harding for the Kangaroos. He hits the ground running and steers the pass to Edwards, who's had a big second quarter. And Aaron Edwards is marked just forward of the circles. He kicks it as long as he can. Thomas, the only chance for the Kangaroos. Interference before the ball arrives. Free kick against Thomas. And it'll be taken by Jones for the Eagles. Goes for the short pass across the ground where Schofield across to Waters. And the pass towards centre half back. And the mark's taken by Scott Selwood, who kicks towards the city side of the ground. Rosa marks behind the wing. Steers the pass up towards half forward. And the Eagles have it in between wing and half forward. Short pass comes back to Rosa. Gee whiz, they're reluctant to go forward with it. Mind you, all the Kangaroos are back in one half of the ground, so they've got the same problem. The kick just hoisted it high to a contest, and nearly to Lacroix, who kicked 3 goals in the first quarter and hasn't been able to see it in the second. He follows up well, keeps the ball alive just inside the boundary line. Hand pass into Kennedy, throws the left boot of the ball, high to the goal square. Mark dropped in the goal square by Ebert, but he follows up and kicks the goal from about half a metre out. Goal to Brad Ebert, his first for the afternoon. And the first for a while for the Eagles, who go to 7-5, trailing North 8 goals for.
Lacroix's injured in the back play, which would tend to tremor through the Eagles.
What stood out to me in this quarter is worthy of note is that the movement of the ball into the forward line. North Melbourne have been very clinical, moving the ball quickly, finding gaps and things like that. West Coast Eagles, they get the ball to the half forward line. You just see them, they stand there and all of a sudden, just kick it in hope, just bomb it up in there. It's just absolutely no thought whatsoever. And this has become a major difference. They're just very, very lucky. Just a bit of scramble and footy. They've just got to get that forward movement and delivery much better.
Bounced back in the centre of Docklands. It's an 11-point margin. North Melbourne should have come out. Harding's disposal was loose, though, and it lets the Eagles have a second look. Swift brings it up to the wing for Embley. He thought about the hand pass over the top. Instead, he goes more direct. They climb in. Ash Hansen was the highest leaper, didn't hang on. Rawlings at the back. They're not out of this yet. Trying to get through was Grimer, and he did a good job. He kept his head about him. North out of trouble, and the marker's taken by Wright. He was dragged down after he took that mark too. Hand passes up over the top to Urquhart. Couldn't quite escape the lunge of Kennedy. Hand pass to Adams. They'll get worked over here at North, and it's gathered by Swift at half back. Spanger took on Harvey and got caught stone cold. Didn't recognise his limitations. Brent Harvey bounds up, has a bounce, tries to get around Spanger, who stays in that contest. Gives it to Zeeble, worked in a little move on a shimmy to the left to open up the goal front and then kicked it out on the full. He did a lot right and a little wrong, and the wrong brings him completely undone.
The shimmy was a shambles. The kick in, and Goldstein takes the mark. The kick meant for Rosa, and Goldstein is only about 40 metres out from goal and about 8 metres in from the boundary line. Can kick a goal. Kicked 5 last year against Melbourne in round 19. Todd Goldstein. Here he goes off the left, which will narrow the angle. He steers it and clips the goalpost. So he was pretty close, but through for a minor score. 9-5 to 7 goals 5. Adam White.
Mentioned before about Mark Lacroix down in back play. He has come to the bench looking a little proppy. I think he's okay, but there would be a little concern considering he missed just the 1 week with the hamstring concern.
The Eagles go long from the kick-in. Cox is their man. Ferrito chopped the arms to make the spoil. Dean Cox to get the free kick at half-back. Kicked away from him. That was pretty clear. So the Eagles move up. They zone out into the midfield. And Cox was going to kick that 30 metres backwards. He thinks better of it, and so he should have. Swift marks further up the field and works his hand pass over to Jones. They should break on the city side. Kick put out in front of Rosa. Needs a bounce. Gets a bounce. Goldstein lumbers after him. Kick out into the pocket. Marston couldn't mark. McMahon makes a good, honest contest and knocks the ball out over the boundary. And Marston had a mind to swoop on that and open things up.
Throw in the forward pocket. Won by McIntosh, delightfully down to Swallow, who kicks over half-back. It's a little bit too high out there for Adams. He gives chase close to the boundary line. The ball goes out of play. And a throw-in. City side of the ground. Incredible. The first time these two have played on a Saturday afternoon in Melbourne since they played a final. 1997. Naitanui with a massive leap over the back. Wins it too. The ball comes down to Anthony for the Kangaroos. Now Ferrito, deft use of the hands, gets the hand pass out, but it beats Anthony over the boundary line, and we'll have a throw-in. Gee, the North fans will be a lot happier with their team's performance today than the disappointment of last week.
Eagles have won 6 of their past 7 against North Melbourne, just recounting that history as well, but they trail here by 12 points. It's a free kick which nobody could quite work out. It's Dean Cooks who's worked on a couple of back-to-back free kicks here. He delivers up to Embley, not without a chance from long range, from 55. Didn't get all of it, puts it to the teeth of goal. Running onto it at the back is Ebert. Tried to slip the tackle, hand passed for the goal line. Ferrito hand passes around the point post to stay in the play. It's out of bounds, 10 metres around from the Eagles' goal.
They've lost their confidence going forward, the Eagles. They're just poor options.
They're not playing for each other. They're just going.
Naitanui and Cox both in the ruck contest deep forward, and you would have thought that might have amounted to something, except Swallow was at the bottom of the pack and Naitanui just clamoured all over the top of him to give up the free kick.
So here's Andrew Swallow in the last line. Little hand pass back to Wells, whose kick out of defence, marked by Ferrito. Ferrito squares the ball back to Swallow, who's where he was 20 seconds ago. Hand pass over the top to Wells. They're getting closer to the defensive 50. Now the hand pass back, and Wells was taken out of it after he got rid of the hand pass, and Hansen has been pushed over. Now the Kangaroos are clearly trying to say, we're not going to be bullied, we're not going to be pushed around like last week, and maybe this could have been turned over to a free kick to the Eagles.
It should have been on the precedence we've been given.
Without doubt.
That had been Revolt, he'd have been having a shot for goal.
Absolutely. So Anthony takes the free kick up towards the middle of the ground. Jones marks on his chest behind the pack and steers the pass towards centre half forward for Chris Marston to take the mark about 55, 60 out from goal. He kicks towards full forward. Brown in front. Can't take the mark. Off hands to Embley at full tilt, but he's caught in a great tackle at full tilt, holding the ball. The tackler is Rawlings, who has played an absolute crackerjack.
That was a super tackle. Rawlings works it around in the defensive area. Urquhart takes the mark, plays on. Flat-looking ball for Adams. Took the mark just above the grass. Would have been under a spot of bother had it been the bump ball. It's not. He flares it out to the left. Anthony's on the run. Kick wasn't great. Warren was on the lead. Rosa makes the spoil. It's out of bounds. Adam White.
Fascinating to see Daniel Kerr. He's been on the bench for 5 minutes, changed his boots, but it doesn't seem to be injured, and I don't think his old boots would have been affected by any leather.
City wing.
Just 2 he's had.
Naitanui knocks it to the back. It's gathered though for North Melbourne. Wells got it from Swallow. Hand passed it the wrong way. Naitanui bears down on Adams, who keeps Urquhart, who keeps his head about him. Got it out to Ferrito. Harvey got involved. North against the boundary. Don't worry too much about keeping it in. They're happy for the reprieve. The hard hand pass from Wells almost got them into a real bind at halfback.
Here's the throw-in. Naitanui against McIntosh. McIntosh wins it. He gets the ball down to Anthony, who finds Swallow. He kicks towards centre wing. Thomas caught behind. He went the spoil on Scott Selwood, and the ball's gone out of play for a throw-in at the City wing. 59 plays 47. 12-point lead to the Kangaroos as we approach half-time. 22 minutes played in the second quarter. McIntosh wins again in ruck. Ball comes down to Swallow. His hand pass dropped by Urquhart, but he recovers. Back to Rawlings. Anthony goes back. The mark's taken by Hansen for the Kangaroos. Further back to the defensive goal square. They've taken it from the wing to full back. Out of defence, comes up to Harding, who drops an absolute pudding but has time to recover. The hand pass away to Ferrito, who gallops onto the ball and kicks over the wing, out into space, and says to Wells, get after that. Ebert gets there first. Ebert goes to ground. Wells, good follow-up. That's encouraging from Daniel Wells. Well played. Edwards has it. And he kicks it straight out of bounds on the full, and he lets everybody down, including the commentator. Well, free kick into play for the Eagles.
Just when you think something might reach some heights, and they come to sabotage the whole play. Schofield kicked it to fullback. Jones brings it to centre half back for Embley. 12-point leaders North Melbourne. Into time on of the second term. Sideways to Rosa. Out to the City wing for Marston. He searches for the way forward. He kicks for Mitch Brown, sat it up on his head. It was easy work for Scott Thompson to come in, make the kill and put it out of play. Half forward for the Eagles. Boundary throw in. Nat Nui and Hale shoulder to shoulder. Superior strength from Hale on that occasion. Got it down. Wright's kick was smothered though. The ricochet is gathered by Rosa. Really couldn't really create any interesting play. Trying to get out of there is Zeeble. He works it back to Swallow. Hand pass under duress now to Rawlings. He'll go backward to Hale. Just the chip kick out to the wing, but it should open things up. Zeeble to Urquhart. Inside the 50. Edwards was the target. It grubs past him. Schofield gathers in dashing style. Hand passes to Brown, who drops it cold. Harvey gathers for North Melbourne. Thomas inside the 50. Mark taken. Handball given. Sam Wright, kick a goal. No, he hits the base of the post. 60 plays 47, North by 13.
They've had 3 posters in this quarter, Kangaroos. Waters marks the kick into play. Gets the ball up the ground. It's taken by Shuey, who kicks towards half forward. Well delivered. Kennedy, too far out to score. Right half forward. Dumps it long. Another good spoil back in defence by the Kangaroos. It comes to Harvey. Delivers the hand pass across to Rawlings. Up to Grimer. Back to Harvey. Grimer again. Underground foot pass. Up towards centre wing. Gains about 40 metres. Kicking for touch. Beautiful. Gets the stoppage up on the city wing. North 9-6. Lead the Eagles 7-5. Brett Harvey's up to 25 possessions before half-time.
Second match is underway at Footy Park. We'll bring Matt Clinch in to tell us about the Brisbane Lions and Port Adelaide at half-time, which is a couple of minutes away here at Docklands. North try to work it forward. It was kicked from Swallow to Edwards. I don't know whether that was 15. Edwards kicks up to half forward. Warren takes the mark. He's tripped over, and it's going to be a 50-metre penalty. Will Schofield, or Matthew Spanger, in fact, the accused right. He just reached out with the left hand, took hold of the ankle, dragged down Warren, and then had the audacity to complain when he was being marched backward. I'm not entirely sure what to expect. Ben Warren kicked the goal in the opening turn. 45-degree angle, but he's only 25 away from the targets. To push North Melbourne's lead. Warren stabs a goal and splits it. He's done well. North by 19 points, the best lead so far. 10-6-66 to West Coast 7-5-47.
Well, that's North's third goal from 50-metre penalties and frees, and I'm sure John Worsfold would be devastated in the box, because when Ebert kicked the goal, the 14-minute mark, they stemmed the tide against Kangaroos, and then West Coast, they're not playing well, but they've hung in for 12 minutes of just grinding football, and I'm sure that's what he would want his players to do. And then all of a sudden, because of some player, just a stupid little act of grabbing a bloke on the leg, you've let the Kangaroos out of jail again.
4 goals to 1 this quarter for the Kangaroos. In the middle, it's won by Cox. Hits it defensively. There's Kerr getting a rare touch. His hand pass straight to the opposition. And here they come. The kick from a standing start in the middle by Zeeble. By Anthony it was. At the 50. Comes to the back to the Eagles. And it's taken by Scott Selwood. It kicks them out of defence. But the ball's chopped off by Bastanak for the Kangaroos. In between wing and half forward. Ryan Bastanak from Dandenong. Playing in his third AFL game. Drafted last year. Not too sure where to go. He runs close to Prittis on the mark. Forced round onto the left. A high ball inside the 50. Knocked on by McIntosh. In fact, knocked over the boundary line by McIntosh. And we'll have a throw in. What about John Worsfold? He'd be disappointed with those 50s. He's coaching involved in his 400th game today as a player or coach.
It's a terrific milestone, isn't it? Cox won the tap. Pritis the footy, gives it back to Cox. They come off half-back. Ebert against the boundary for West Coast. Sets it up to a 3-on-2. North with the numbers. Ash Hansen has to go the spoil, and he did it quite well to get that out of bounds and give the Eagles a chance to mass some numbers around it. Whitey?
Let's see from where you are, Jared. Luke Shuey looks like he's running to the rooms. Heavily taped left knee. I don't know whether he's coming back today.
Cox down to Adam Selwood. Bounces the ball up to half forward. It's out of play. So they gain 35 metres in the transaction. Start again. Cox's ruck work is on the improve. He leans into Hale. Actually, they grapple fully. This time to the back goes the tap. Ferrito was taken high by Kerr, who's having a dirty day. And he gives up the free kick.
I've not seen Daniel Kerr without appetite for the footy like I'm seeing today. He just doesn't. He looks as if he doesn't want to be out there.
Lee Adams takes a mark right on half-time, just in time for you Dream Teamers. But the half-time score here, North Melbourne. Yeah, there's a blue on it near the logo, centre wing, city side of the ground. So just as we're calling half-time and going through the score, it's not quite half-time yet because blokes can still be reported.
Oh, well, just a few more dollars for the AFL coffers.
Lots of grappling. What becomes of it? Letting off a bit of heat there at half-time. Well, look, the Kangaroos have shown some fight. They were beaten by 100 last week. They've come out an entirely different team, and they lead at half-time here by 19 points. And if there's any scrap involved, they're all in there, one in, all in. And the Kangaroos fans have got to be happy with that, and they are. The Roos jogging off to the rooms after they dragged their tails to the rooms last week, wearing the same colours, but they're a different outfit. At half-time, North Melbourne 10-6-66, leading the Eagles 7 goals 5-47. For the Kangaroos to half-time, 2 goals for Liam Anthony, 2 to Ben Warren, 2 to Aaron Edwards, 2 to David Hale, and singles for Jack Zeeble and Hamish McIntosh. And for the West Coast Eagles, Mark Lacroix got 3 goals in the first quarter and only scored 1 goal in the second quarter. Singles, Brown, Ebert, Kennedy and Ashley Hansen. So at half-time, North 10-6-66, leading the Eagles 7-5-47.
Matt Clinch is watching affairs at Footy Park. Port Adelaide and Brisbane Lions, 2 of the unbeaten sides in the competition. Matt, welcome.
Thanks, Jared. Yes, finally underway here at Football Park. And the early goal going the way of Jonathan Brown at the 7-minute mark to give the Lions the lead 10-0. So 1-4-10 to Port Adelaide yet to score. Just a change in terms of teams. For Port Adelaide, out was the big man in Dean Brogan, and taking his spot in the side was Cameron Cloak. So a bit of a change there for the ruck department for Port Adelaide. Also a slight concern in terms of personnel with Jay Schultz copping a knock early and going down the rooms. He's yet to re-emerge, and another goal to the Brisbane Lions. At the moment, it's all one-way traffic. The Lions leading 16-0. 10 minutes played in the opening quarter.
At Docklands, half-time, North Melbourne by 19 over West Coast. Stan Elves is with Chris Grant.
Well, gee, that was interesting, Stan, wasn't it? Because really, the last 5 minutes of the first quarter, West Coast Eagles, you thought, actually dominated the play. They had more of the possession. They actually had Lacroix finishing off some really good work. Hansen kicked a nice goal from outside 50. You just sort of felt that after all the good work of North Melbourne early in the quarter, that the Eagles had sort of gained the ascendancy maybe, but their zone has fallen down. Their confidence in going forward has fallen down. I don't know whether that's solely to do with the positioning of the North Melbourne players and making it hard for them to come forward, but I also have a feeling it's as much to do with that as it is to do with their possession and the way they're actually using the ball. They've moved the ball poorly when they go forward, and they should be going confidently forward because Kennedy looked dangerous in the first quarter. Hansen certainly looked dangerous in the first quarter, and Worsfold will be pretty disappointed with the way they actually played that quarter. The concern for the Eagles is not only the way they're using the ball, but they're really good players, and Daniel Kerr's one of them. He's just not getting his hands on the ball. I don't know whether he got injured that quarter. He spent a lot of time off in the second quarter. But he's had 2 or 3 possessions for the whole game. Now, Cousins hasn't been there for a while, and Judd hasn't been there for a while, so he's got to be able to fight his way out of these, and I'll be really interested to see how he actually fronts and confronts the second half of this game, because really the only way that the Eagles can get into the game, all the other players just look like they're using the ball poorly, really. He's the star in the team. He's the one that can actually not only generate it himself, but when he actually moves the ball forward, he's clinical at times. That confidence is not there at the moment, but you get a sense that if the Eagles have got any chance of actually winning the ball out of the middle or scoring freely, Kerr's going to have an influence in that game. They've had good players, North Melbourne. They've had really good players. You spoke about Harvey before the game. Well, he's answered the call. He's certainly answered the call. 25-plus possessions. I don't know if he finished with more than 25. But he had 25 at one stage. That's a terrific captain's half. Edwards really came into his own in that second quarter. I think he had 7 marks for the quarter. But really the zone, North Melbourne were able to work through that zone far too easily, weren't they, Stan?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. The things that stood out to me, Chris, in addition to what you're saying, is that the Kangaroos, after what was a nervous start, I think they just settled better, didn't they? They were more composed. They came out in that quarter and they just took control of the game. There's no doubt about it. To be quite honest with you, the scoreboard's not a true indication. I think in general play that the Kangaroos have been way, way better than West Coast Eagles. And the reality is I've just been amazed at the lack of pressure around the major ball winners. You've talked about Harvey. Just give you some idea in that quarter. Harvey had 13 possessions, Swallow 13, Anthony 11, Ferrito 10, Rawlings coming out of the back line 9. Best for West Coast was Prittis with 9. Now, when you're dominating, got so much of the footy, and then their ball movement, they're just whizzing it around, getting it in. You're right, then they're exploiting West Coast defensive area. They're in disarray. But the difference, and again, you're right, the use of the footy going in the forward line, North have purpose. They've got people who are leading. What we're not seeing is that other than every now and again, we're not seeing North Melbourne players lead to the same spots. They're opening up. It's that old divide and conquer. The other side is that when finally West Coast get the footy and get to around about 55 metres out, they're bereft of options and they just smash it up. Well, guess what happened? You just see the North Melbourne defenders, they're having a picnic. They're coming out over the top, jumping on top of forwards, smashing the ball out every time again, and yet they're not trying anything different. That's just amazing to me from that point of view. The other thing that I think that's happening is that sometimes when you look at pressure and what will happen, you look at tackles. Now, interesting thing is West Coast have had 30 tackles to North Melbourne's 19. That's not an indication that West Coast are on. That's an indication that they're so far second that what's happened is, and so often those tackles have been, and I think it's unfair, they've actually been credited with the tackle after the bloke's got rid of the footy. And so they're just chasing tail at the moment. I think it's a massive job for John Worsfold. I think you're spot on the money. They've got to throw the challenge down to somebody like Daniel Kerr. He is playing like somebody who has no heart in the game. For somebody who I think we all admired for so long was built on heart. He has no appetite for the contest whatsoever. The only energy is expended, and Adam White was spot on, the only energy expended by this great player in the first half was changing his boots.
That's half time, definitively.
Did you leave Boom Harvey in your dream team?
I did, thank Evan.
More of that afterwards. 10-6-66 North Melbourne, West Coast 7-5-47. The sports update to follow. The latest from the ABC newsroom with Anna Walker.
Thanks, Jared, and good afternoon. A man and 3 children have been found dead in a house in Melbourne in what police suspect is a murder-suicide. The bodies were found at around lunchtime in the northern Melbourne suburb of Roxburgh Park. Police believe the children were all under the age of 12. The homicide squad is at the scene. An Australian Federal Police investigation has been launched into the grounding of a Chinese coal carrier off central Queensland. The Sheneng 1 hit Douglas Shoal a week ago. Authorities are working to pump oil from the stricken carrier. The AFP has confirmed it's investigating the incident along with other agencies after a request by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. Meanwhile, Queensland's Premier Anna Bligh says it'll be at least 3 days before attempts can be made to refloat the carrier.
We won't see all of the oil off the ship until probably the end of the weekend at the earliest, and then there'll have to be considerable assessments taken of the vessel empty of the oil before any flotation procedures occur.
Pope Benedict has for the first time been directly accused of delaying church action against a pedophile priest. The allegations emanate from a letter signed by the future Pope in 1985 in which he resisted appeals for the dismissal of an American priest who'd sexually abused 2 boys at a school in California. The Pope, then Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, pleaded for more time, asking the diocese to consider the good of the universal church. The Pope's own spokesman, Father Federico Lombardi, has now told Catholic dioceses the only way they'll regain trust is to end secrecy and report all abuse to the police. But Patrick Raggett, who was assaulted by a priest as a child, says the Vatican can't solve the crisis without addressing past abuse.
It's okay for the Pope to talk about offering moral support and meeting victims, but what the Catholic Church tends to do is to really dig its heels in on offering fair compensation to victims.
The Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young says the federal government's decision to freeze certain asylum seeker applications is a redneck policy. The government says conditions in Sri Lanka and Afghanistan are improving and applications from asylum seekers from those countries won't be processed for up to 6 months. Senator Hanson-Young says it's a clear breach of the Racial Discrimination Act and she's concerned it will lead to children being held in detention. She says the Prime Minister can't be trusted on the asylum seeker issue.
Kevin Rudd's announcement yesterday has proven that he is a coward when it comes to standing up for what is right. He's simply bowing to the pressure of Tony Abbott and the opposition and following them down the low road of electoral politics that was so well laid out by John Howard.
The Salvation Army is beefing up security across the country after another arson attack in New South Wales. Sean Rubenstein-Dunlop reports.
A 2-storey depot at North Parramatta in Sydney's west was destroyed by fire yesterday in the 5th suspected arson attack on a Salvation Army store in 6 months. The charity says it's now shelling out money earmarked for the community to pay for security guards and surveillance at stores across the country. 29-year-old Adam James Brewer was arrested near the scene of the latest blaze yesterday and remanded in custody in court this morning. Police allege he lit the fire, then tried to steal from a nearby car dealership. The damage bill is expected to top $250,000. Brewer has indicated he'll apply for bail next week.
Thai security forces have retaken a satellite TV transmission station that was overrun by anti-government protesters. The Thai Prime Minister Abhisit Vejjajiva gave the order late on Friday. The authorities again stopped the broadcasts of an opposition-controlled television channel, saying it had been inciting violence. The BBC's Quentin Somerville reports from Bangkok.
Thousands of anti-government protesters stormed a broadcasting compound on Friday, forcing back government troops, and succeeded in getting the opposition TV station People Channel back on air. But it was a short-lived victory. By Saturday, the channel, which has become an important propaganda tool for the Red Shirts, was once again off air. An army spokesman said that troops had retreated during Friday's confrontation to spare human life, but the channel was spreading false information and had again been closed on government orders.
A United Nations report says average life expectancy has increased sharply since 1950 in most regions of the world and is now 68 years or more. Benefiting from medical advances and improvements in nutrition and hygiene, people in China and India have gained most and now can expect to live 30 years longer. But Africa has only made modest progress, with the HIV/AIDS epidemic limiting average life expectancy to no more than 55. ABC News.
From the writers of Peep Show and The Thick of It comes a comedy about settling into old age with style.
Tell them about yourself. Pretty funny. Not too much, though. People switch off.
As seen on ABC One and new to DVD, The Old Guys takes a fresh look at retirement and the joys of never acting your age.
I'm playing an online drinking game with some students. They think I'm 26 and a woman.
I wouldn't go to that party now if she begged me.
I would.
The Old Guys is available from ABC Shops, Centres and ABC Shop Online.
Grandstand AFL.
It's inside the 50, go North Melbourne. Markers taken by Edwards, out on a strong lead from 49. He lays into this quite superbly and splits the middle, flicks the half pass away. Now Hansen is the tackler coming at Bastanak, who's good enough to get it off to Liam Anthony from long range. He'll land the ball. Liam Anthony Harvey with his second, and North Melbourne spirits revived by the quarter-time break. They've put up back-to-back goals.
Where Grimer takes the mark, advances the ball, and the pass inside 50 is beautiful, and Edwards takes the mark. He nearly hugged the air out of the ball. Aaron Edwards, she can kick a footy, and that sails through for his second goal this quarter. Throws the left boot of the ball high to the goal square. Mark dropped in the goal square by Ebert, but he follows up and kicks the goal from about half a metre out.
On ABC Local Radio.
Good afternoon, Georgia Spokes with you in the Grandstand studio. It's half-time at Dockland Stadium, and North Melbourne 10 goals 66 lead the West Coast Eagles by 19 points, 7-5-47. And at Football Park late in the opening term, Matt Clinch.
Georgia, it's a 15-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions, 3-5-23 to Port Adelaide 1-8. Although it came, Port Adelaide's first goal came from a little bit of ill discipline from Mitch Clark. He gave away a free kick going back against the flight, and Jason Davenport was able to kick their goal. Only moments before that, he was actually reported for striking Jackson Trengrove. So Trengrove has gone down the race and a couple of stitches to his left eye, and that adds a bit of interest. It was a sloppy tackle where he got Trengrove high, but of course the Brisbane Lions take on the Western Bulldogs next week, and on initial glances he might receive a week for that. So some other concerns for the Lions despite leading on the scoreboard. The goal kickers for Brisbane, Brown, Sherman and Patfull, while as I mentioned Jason Davenport, the goal kicker for Port Adelaide. So just a couple of minutes away from quarter time, it's the Brisbane Lions 3-5-23 to Port Adelaide 1-8.
Back to the football shortly, but first a look at the rest of the day's sport, and let's head straight to Augusta, where English duo Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter are joint leaders after the second round of the US Masters. Poulter shot his second straight 68, while Westwood shot a 69, both ending the day at 8 under, 2 shots ahead of a group of 5 that includes Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson and KJ Choi. Westwood says he's rapt to be at his best.
I've never led the Masters before at the halfway stage, and I'm leading it, so it's probably about as good as I've played, yeah. I'm more pleased with the consistency I'm showing, and when I analyse every aspect of my game, there's not one at 10 and one at one part at 4. The bad stuff's 6.5, 7, and the good stuff's 10.
Not a great day for the Australians. Adam Scott is the best placed in a group of 8 on even par. Jeff Ogilvy finished the day at 2 over, while Robert Allenby and Nathan Scott just made the cut at 3 over, 11 shots behind the leaders. John Senden and Mark Leishman missed out. A big day of racing at Randwick with 3 Group 1s, including the $1.3 million AJC Derby, which is being run very soon. The Inglis Sires Stakes has just been run and won. Let's hear the closing stages, courtesy of 2KY.
Around the home corner in the Sires at the 400. Off the rail, Hinchinbrook in front from Skilled on the outside. Yosei behind them, back to the inside. More Strawberries needs a run. Black Ball still there. Turak Toff down the outer at the 300. Hinchinbrook, Skilled, joined by Turak Toff and Yosei back to the inside. Below the 200, Yosei, Turak Toff, they go together from Skilled, Hinchinbrook. It's Yosei, Turak Toff, and Skilled in the middle is fighting. Yosei, Skilled. Oh, nearly a dead heat. Gee, this is close. Yosei or Skilled, what a thriller. Third a photo, Hinchinbrook, Turak Toff, then divorce.
So it was Yosei ahead of Skilled, Hinchinbrook and Turak Toff, and earlier the 1200 metre TJ Smith Stakes.
450 metres to go in the Group 1. Patronym in front by about 3/4 to Hot Danish. Then came Wanted the outside, 2 lengths to Micmac, followed by Melito, Lord Tavistock and Metal Bender. The leader is Patronym, 300 metres to go from Hot Danish on the outside, letting down. Now Micmac starting to rev up from Wanted, and Melito right down the outside. Hot Danish takes the lead. Melito out after it. Hot Danish in front. Melito on the outside looking to spoil the party. She's flying home, and Melito wins it by 3/4. Hot Danish or Micmac. Then Wanted, Patronym, Metal Bender.
So it was Melito winning the TJ Smith Stakes ahead of Hot Danish, Micmac and Wanted. Moving on to league last night, Melbourne Storm had its first loss of the NRL season, going down to the Gold Coast Titans 20-16. The Storm led by 12 at the break, but tries from Greg Bird and Ashley Harrison and penalty goals from veteran Matt Rogers saw the Titans post a come-from-behind win. The Dragons had a comfortable 34-16 win over the understrength Broncos in Wollongong. This afternoon, the Rabbitohs host Newcastle, and tonight the Bulldogs are at home to the Warriors and the Cowboys meet West's Tigers.
Already one game finished today in the Super 14s. The Force 41 have beaten the Highlanders 27. Last night, the grand final replay in New Zealand saw the Bulls outrun the Chiefs, winning 33-19. In tennis, defending champion Leighton Hewitt has suffered a straight sets loss in the quarterfinals of the ATP Tour event in Houston. And Argentina's Juan Ignacio Chela held off a late charge from Hewitt to win 6-4, 6-3. It's Hewitt's first tournament back since having knee surgery. Now time to head back to the Docklands, where North Melbourne leads 19 points. But first, Matt Clinch with an update at Football Park.
Thanks, Georgia. Yes, Brendan Favola on the board. He becomes the Brisbane Lions' fourth goal kicker. They lead 4-5-29 by 20 points over Port Adelaide 1-3-9. So Brisbane doing all the attacking in the opening quarter as we're just verging on quarter time. Just repeating that Mitch Clark has been reported as well for striking Jackson Trengrove. Let's take you back now to Docklands, to Gerard Whateley and the team.
Good man, Matt. They're out and set to start play. North Melbourne 10-6-66, West Coast 7-5-47. Adam White told you at quarter time the latest with Nick Revolt. It's probably worth reading to you the release from St Kilda. St Kilda Footy Club can confirm that scans to captain Nick Revolt's right hamstring have revealed a high-grade muscle tendon injury. The tendon has not come off the bone, however, it is a significant hamstring injury. At this stage, the club is unsure how long Nick will be sidelined for. The suspicion is second half of the season. So a big one for the skipper of the premiership favourites.
Jared, I've just been keeping an eye on Daniel Kerr when they came out. It's interesting, as a senior player, he was just walking around the back of the pack, and a number of other players come and dragged him in the pack. They're all whack him on the back talking to him, but he's just showed no sort of emotion or anything whatsoever, as his teammates are just trying to get him to lift. They know how important he is to this side.
Second half about to get underway. A 19-point lead to the Kangaroos. 10-6 to 7 goals 5. Roof closed here at Docklands. Up we go, and Natanui gets his hand to the ball. Ball comes down to Selwood. Fires away a little hand pass. And peeling around behind them, Ebert kicks up short of half forward. And the mark spilled out there. And gathered by Wells for the Kangaroos. Inside the 50 they go. Thomas flies from behind but can't take the mark. It works down to the front. Clash of bodies. Taken away by Glass. Hand pass to Jones, who clears for the Eagles. Over half-back flank. Rawlings climbs from behind, gets a fist of the ball. It comes down to the front. Millionth possession there for Harvey. Back to Wells he goes. Into Harvey again. Harvey sweeps the hand pass. Bastanak shares it in the middle. Ferrito on the run. Terrific play by the Kangaroos. Up by Zeeble towards the 50. But they've turned it over, and the hand pass comes out and is taken on the bounce here by Ebert at centre half-back.
He kicks to the broadcast wing. Not a great play. Lacroix was behind Lockie Hansen. Lacroix fights on, wins an important ball. His hand pass didn't find the target, though. Hansen stays in the play. He lays the tackle. It's buried on the logo.
Just some Dream Team points for you, Stan. Brent Harvey, 88 Dream Team points. He'll get 170 at this rate. Anthony, 78. Ferrito, 71.
Daniel Kerr, how many?
He has got 8.
Dream Team poison there. McIntosh's kick was partially smothered. The Eagles have a chance. Embley's able to fire out the hand pass. He gave it to Shuey and got it back. Gives it to Kerr. Puts them inside the 50. Spoil made on Ash Hansen. It was a meaningful spoil by Grimer as well. North with a chance to whisk it away. Zeeble turns himself in the 360. Chips it just up beyond the midfield. Hand pass comes from Grimer. Got it to Bastanak. He rolls it at the goal front. Oh, clever stuff by Lindsay Thomas. Got the outside of the boot to it as it was about to roll into the post and put it the right side. North Melbourne the first goal. It was a little beauty as well. 11-6-72. The Eagles 7-5-47. 2 minutes into the third.
Well, he had to get a foot onto it, Jerry, because it was going to run into the it was very cheeky. Very, very good little goal. He's very good at those types of goals, isn't he? I tell you, when North Melbourne are going forward, they're continuing to just open up the West Coast defence, and I'm sure they would have spoken about it at half-time, the Eagles, but gee, that was way too easy. Through the middle of the ground, Bastanak just had a panic to run into and delivered it into the goal square wherever it was finished off, but way too easy for mine.
Bastanak in his third game, 57 points. Natanui wins it down in the middle, down to Kerr, who gets boot the ball, so he's had 2 already at the start of this second half. Oh, it's gathered by Zeeble, who busts his way through with upper body strength, but his kick's not all that flash. It's dropped off by Jones. He gets it to Kerr, and Kerr gets the hand pass away just in time to Jones, who kicks inside half forward. Lacroix up, couldn't take the mark. Natanui there to help him out. Natanui keeps it on the toe. Chopped off by Rawlings. It spills to Hansen of the Eagles. He's thrown to ground by Harding, right on the paint of 50. And the umpire, I thought, was going to come in and ball it up, but he let it go for a long, long time. Another chance here for the Eagles. Shuey goes to ground, and the ball's pinned to him, where the Kangaroo fans think that he was holding the ball. And the umpire will ball it up right in front of goal, 40 metres out. It is 72-47 with North in charge.
McIntosh wins the tap for North. They don't have possession. Shuey's trying to break clear with it. Out near Kerr, 2-man tackle. Wills was quite aggressive at him. Holds him up. Same place for the bounce. Adam White.
Drew then calls Shuey. I can't believe he's back on the ground. His day looked gone just before half-time.
West Coast attacking to the Coventry end. Pritis sharked the tap. Couldn't break clear. Held up by Zeeble.
Some dream teamers are very happy with the comeback.
One on the boundary, do you think? Self-interest being played? Yes. Bounce, Natanui climbs up over the top, it falls to the side, Lacroix swings it at goal, he's kicked his 4th. He's a classy player, Mark Lacroix. He keeps the Eagles in at 8-5-53 to North Melbourne, 11-6-72.
Oh, you just summed it up. He is a classy player, and it's not only great players' ability when they've got the footy in their hands, and he's deadly, but it's, you imagine a ball up in a defensive area, players just everywhere, and he just read that absolutely magnificent. He started off on one side of the pack, he ran up, saw the hand get to the ball, changed direction, came around the pack, hooked the ball around his body. A beautiful response, and if they're going to win this game, they just got to get a couple more to jump on board and help him out, because really at this point of time he's the only forward who looks at all capable of kicking some scores for them.
Mark Lacroix, 6 kicks, 4 goals. Natanui wins another one in the middle. Through Pritis it goes. It's taken by Urquhart. The whistle's gone. Pritis will take a free kick. He wants to take it quickly. He's had a heap of leather today. He kicks up short of half forward. Kerr climbs. Can't take the mark. North will come out with the ball. Bastanak concedes some ground. Back to Grimer, off to Harvey. Harvey balks a kick and runs around his man beautifully. Approaches centre wing, gets the hand pass into Bastanak. He kicks towards half forward. On the long lead is right. Can't take the mark. In front, Glass for the Eagles. Hand passes back. It is taken there by Schofield, who squares it across the half-back line. Embley further across half-back to Rosa, who marks on defensive 50. Pokes one over the top. Oh, it's dangerous. Here comes Wells to put on the punch. Gains 25 metres with that punch. Comes to Warren. Slings in the hand pass. Back to the Eagles. Shuey taken to ground, wrapped up in the tackle. The umpire will ball it up. North lead 11-6-72 to the Eagles 8-5-53. That is a 19-point lead to North, and we've been playing 6 minutes in the third quarter.
A goal apiece in the term. Bounce, you give the tap to Natanui. Comes the way of Bastanak. His kick was smothered against the boundary. Rose it to Kerr. Just darts around one. Tried to hand pass the bouncing ball to Natanui. He couldn't gather. It's out of play. Half forward for West Coast. For North, sorry. But Darby's been running. I'm a touch distracted. And Natanui has the kick. It slides to the side of the pack. Delzeal is there. Hand passes to Schofield. Runs through centre half back to an open forward line. Lockie Hansen tumbling back. Didn't take the mark. Oh, held without it was Adam Selwood. No free kick. North survive. McIntosh should break it left half back. Gives his hand pass out to Zeeble. Kicks up to half forward. One-on-one contest. Won beautifully by Schofield, who turns and brings it away.
And Kerr's had as many possessions in the last 5 minutes as he had in the whole of the first half. Ball comes in here. Short pass by Shuey to Natanui. He takes the mark and penetrates the 50. Kennedy leaps from behind. No mark. Ball down in front. Fired out by Selwood to Lacroix. Lacroix's hand pass to Cox. 20 out. He rolls it along the ground for a goal. Dean Cox. 2-1 this quarter. The Eagles 9-5-59 get within 13 points. North 11-6-72.
Well, some exciting football for a change, Stan, wasn't it? Some exciting footy. They worked hard for it. They pushed the ball. They continued to push the ball along the boundary line almost. Nick Natanui's kick probably just had to go over the top. It was a good contest by O'Crary. He kept his feet. That's why he's a good player. He doesn't go to ground very often. And Big Dean Cox returns to a bit of form with a nice snag along the ground for a goal, and brings them a little bit closer.
Matt Clinch, Footy Park.
Second quarter just underway. It's the Brisbane Lions leading 5-5-35 to Port Adelaide 1-4-10. Jonathan Brown, the leading goal kicker, with 2.
Free kick in the middle of the ground in North Melbourne. The AJC derby was won by Shootout, beating Descarado. There's a photo for third. Shootout wins the derby. Andrew Swallow with the free kick.
Is that the noise of tearing up tickets I can hear?
Short kick to Urquhart. Long ball inside the 50. It will favour Thomas. Waters goes back. Thomas up over the top though. Times his leap well and can go back and have a conventional shot at goal after the little dab he nabbed at the start of the term. It's back to 13 points, so North looking to answer the 2 goals that West Coast have put together. Thomas is on a severe angle out to the right. He'll start against the boundary and take a couple of steps inside the arc before delivering to the targets. Thomas, left foot drop punts. It's across the face and a minor score. North by 14.
Just his 4th possession for the game. Not a bad leap. The bearded Will Schofield went to Geelong College, playing for the Eagles. Gained some ground for himself, but he's mucked it up. Right has it for the Kangaroos to Zeeble. Back he goes. The kick for goal is fantastic by Urquhart. And Gavin Urquhart gets the goal for the Kangaroos from about 35 metres.
It's his 35th game today, and that is his first goal.
Didn't have time to think about it. Maybe just as well. North 12-7 lead the Eagles 9-5.
Well, I think you should just run up the West Coast players and say thanks very much for mucking it up and giving it to me, because look, it's a funny old game. I'm really struggling to get a handle on it because the tempo's really dropped. I mean, I thought the game was really just going to just go to somewhere, but it's just amazing. And as soon as West Coast look as if they might do something, they come back with 2 very good goals. There they just go and they just and a elementary, just terrible muck up down there. And to his credit, Urquhart got it, didn't have a chance to think, as the boys said, dropped it on the right boot, curled it around the corner. Good goal, young fella.
Bounce back in the middle. Cox against Goldstein. Knocked the way of Kerr. He's held in the tackle, dragged to ground.
I'm sorry, I mentioned Geelong College for Will Schofield. I wonder if he passed any exams when he was there.
North by 20 points. Outer of the 2 circles for the bounce. Yes, there was a pretty untidy ruck contest. There's a free kick North Melbourne's way. Swallow gives it to Wills up to the 50. Warren led up to it, couldn't take the mark. Glass tries to kick it off the ground. Successfully did it at the second attempt, but he's given it up. The kick inside the 50 from Zeeble falls the way of Thomas, and he snaps quite brilliantly. Lindsay Thomas with his second of the term. North bang on 2 and they lead by 26. 13-7 to 9-5.
Well, good start from Lindsay Thomas there. It didn't come off the boot that well. It floated through, but 6 points registered. This is what we're talking about, Stan. They really had no right to get that ball inside 50 really then, but they somehow, West Coast had too many loose men, and North Melbourne have made them pay, but they should never have been able to get that ball inside 50. Once the ball hit the ground, they had 3 on 2 and they still lost it. And Lindsay Thomas, he doesn't need much room to capitalise on his. He's had 5 possessions now for a couple of goals.
Stone cold in the first half, and he's kicked 2 goals, 1 in the third quarter. Goldstein wins in the middle, but straight down to Kerr, who's also getting better in this third quarter. His kick up towards half forward. Hansen runs onto it for the Kangaroos. Little hand pass away to Wells. Back he goes. And McMahon, little one round the corner up towards centre wing. It's taken by Wright. He sweeps the hand pass up the ground beautifully to Adams. Here come the Kangaroos again. Adams with penetration. And Aaron Edwards is caught behind and fails to spoil, and the mark's dragged down by Jones for the Eagles in the last line of defence. One of 8 premiership players from their 2006 premiership, just still left in the Eagles side, out towards half-back. Ball comes back to Swift. It was a disappointing kick by Swift, and it bounces out of bounds at centre wing for a throw-in. Adam Waite.
A little bit off centre. This excitement out at Warrandyte today, because at North Melbourne flavour, Glenn Archer made his debut for Warrandyte at the Warrandyte Reserve. Got cleaned up in the opening minutes, but did kick 2 goals to half-time. So Warrandyte is a buzz with Glenn Archer, the former North Melbourne legend, playing for them.
Pretty brave to clean him up.
Yeah.
Kerr from the stoppage brings it out to Adam Selwood, stabs it to Ashley Hansen on the lead. If he can have the set shot, he'll be beyond the 50. This is just must-kick stuff, though, for West Coast.
Will the bloke who cleaned up Glenn Archer get out of the game alive?
Ashley Hansen twirls the footy. Skips in through half forward, and from long range blasts at the goal front. He's got a big piece of it. It gets away late and is punched through by Goldstein for a behind. Margins 25 in North Melbourne's favour. 14 minutes into the third term on Grandstand AFL.
McMahon kicks in short to Harvey. Why wouldn't you give it to Harvey today? Back to McMahon, sweeps the hand pass to Rawlings. Rawlings steers a drop punt down the line to half-back flank, and the mark taken by Hamish McIntosh. Right below the commentary box, 85-60, North in front, 14 and a half minutes played, third quarter. McIntosh goes back to Hansen of the Kangaroos, who marks. He finds Rawlings, and a short pass up the grounds taken by Bastanak, the 18-year-old, kicks it long way backwards and across the ground. Back to Thompson. Now they've got it out towards the city wing, and the mark's taken by Swallow. He might have gone on with it, but he does go back behind the man on the mark, and the kick by Swallow, he's given it up, and Glass chimes across for the Eagles and takes a chest mark at half-back.
Kicks it sideways to Adam Selwood. He'll bring it across the face of goal. Spanger will mark, turn, not a lot long. He's going to have to use Embley short. He set it up high. Embley have had heart palpitations as he waited for it to land. It did before the Elephants arrived. Still essentially out of the back pocket. Embley kicks long around the wing. Marking contest, nothing taken. Rose accidentally kicked that out on the full, although the boundary umpire takes mercy on him and says he didn't. He'll throw it in.
It's either a fact or it isn't. He did.
He did. That was right in front of us. He didn't mean to do it, but he still did it. Throw it in. Cox knocks it down to the front. Prittis, hand pass to Kerr, under duress, releases the footy, not to advantage. Rawlings claims it for North to Goldstein. Held in the tackle, kick smothered off the boot of Swallow. Cox was in close confines there to do the smothering. It's out of play. Half forward for North. They lead by 25 points.
Does he get a point for the smother?
I think so.
Natanui palms down from behind. It's taken by Zeeble. He's crunched to the ground. And there's a high tackle laid by Dalziel. The free kick to Swallow. He goes quickly by hand to Bastanak, who kicks it. Cox, if he'd looked at it, could have taken a chest mark. I need you to mark that ball.
He still hasn't woken up that it went past him.
Dalziel goes back with a hand pass to Embley, who breaks from half-back flank, kicks around the corner. Good trap by Swallow. Swallow thumps North forward, right towards full forward. 2 against 2. Glass with a punch. Underneath is Natanui. Slips through like an eel. Gets the hand pass back to Selwood. Scott Selwood's kick outside the 50. Jones too slow to get there. It is taken here for the Kangaroos and worked forward by Grimer. And he short passes, and the mark on the lead has been taken by Harvey. And it would be fitting if Boomer Harvey, the captain, could cap off a great game with a goal. What do you have? 5 touches last week. They got beaten by 100.
It's up to 30 possessions today.
30 possessions today. What a comeback. Distance is about 40 metres. He's gone well outside the paint of 50. Gets momentum. Drop punts for goal. Give a man a rap, and he misses to the right-hand side. That's his first score.
Drew, I'll tell you what was good, Grimer's attack on the ball. When those 50-50s you're a defender, you've got to come off your line and attack the footy. He was superb in doing that.
Matt Clinch, Footy Park.
All one-way traffic here at Football Park, with the Brisbane Lions leading by 39 points, 7-7-49 to Port Adelaide 1-4-10. Jonathan Brown has 3 goals.
Embley kicked it long out of the defence, but Hamish McIntosh took the contested mark. He pops the Kangaroos back to half forward. Adams marks, delivers to the teeth of goal. They need a leaper. Thomas, the little man, gets up very high. Didn't complete the mark though. Pritter sweeps it up for the Eagles. They'll work it around with hand pass. Out comes Rosa. Chips it to Marston. Gives his hand pass to Spanger on the link-up. Delivers for Ash Hansen. Spoiled by McMahon, and he did it really well. He knocked it to the team's advantage. Grimer shows him the footy. Does a bit of neat footwork. Delivers to Zeeble. Zeeble looks up to half forward. There's nothing for him there. Short he goes to Adams. Now into the middle. Well kicked. Marked by Ferrito. Hand pass to Wills. Up to the 50. Needs the leaper from the side. And coming as ordered is Todd Goldstein. Oh, he gives the hand pass away. Urquhart's trying to double up, having got an eternity without a goal. He's put this one across the face and through for a behind. North by 27, Adam White.
All that good spoil before, Jared, from Scott McMahon, but he's come to the bench because it's either a knee injury. I'm not entirely sure. He hobbling on that left leg, but I think it might be a knee problem. So he went straight to the bench.
Oh, the kick in straight to Adams, and Adams pinpoints a pass to Warren right in front, 40 metres out from goal.
I keep saying this, but for heaven's sake, if you're going to set a zone, put somebody in that spot 30 metres out dead in front, because that's where you don't want them to kick the ball. West Coast are really in disarray, and they're really in control of Kangaroos now. They just look a class above them. West Coast really are they're just hanging in by the skin of their teeth.
Ben Warren for his 3rd goal in his 12th game at AFL level. Kicks from 45 metres, sprays it to the right. Disappointing finish.
They keep them in the game, but already their marks inside 50, 11-4.
North by 28. The Eagles out of fullback. The kick in comes the way of Waters. He can't see the way ahead on the broadcast side, so he switches back across the face of goal. Ebert is there to take the mark. Andy will use the 1-2 and get it back. Works it out now to Scott Selwood. They run hard through Jones and Brown. Brown is up on the wing, and he dead set rubbers that ball. Dalziel makes it better than it was. They're not out of it yet. Hand passes to Nat Nui. He can take the shot at goal from 45 and nail it. As poor as they've been, he's a star in the making, Nick Naitanui, and he does keep them in touch again. 22 points down, 13-10, 88 to 10-6, 66. Time on now, the 3rd term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, they know a good way of actually getting the ball onto the ground, the Eagles, don't they? Because they did some great work running out of defence, and it was just a comedy of errors. The Brown kick would have gone 5 or 6 metres along the ground. I'm not sure what he was doing, but as Jared said, thank you to Nick Naitanui, because he made something awful turn into something pretty special.
Eagles trying to sort themselves out with matchups prior to the bounce back in the centre. Here we go. Naitanui climbs all over the top of McIntosh, but knocks it straight to Harvey. He's knocked up getting the ball. He runs. He delivers the hand pass over the top. Right on the run. Kicks from 49. And he was just grabbed in the action of kicking. It put him off enough for him to spray it out of bounds on the full, missing to the right-hand side. It's 13-10 to 8-6.
Great effort, Scott Selwood. Great chase.
Spanger kicks it in to add to Shuey outside the 50 now. The Eagles, they do like going across the face of goal, and here they come again. Spanger makes the transfer out to Jones. Jones going to crisscross to centre half back. Embley's there to take the mark. They work it by hand pass. Brown is the link-up runner. From long range, he sets it inside the 50. Finger-tipper couldn't be clasped by Kennedy. It's a reprieve for North Melbourne. Lockie Hansen gets the hand pass to Rawlings. Kicks to half-back now for Anthony. They could be on the break. Well-weighted ball to Harvey. Darts back inside. Delivers into the centre square. Mark taken by Swallow. Hand pass Bastanak. That is kicking. He puts it right onto the chest of Hale. They swept that down the ground, North.
And there is a hole in the ozone layer.
David Hale has 2 beside his name, both to the locket ends. And he can put a third up there now. He'll start well inside the centre square. And kick from just about true centre half forward. Hale swings the boot at it. Not the greatest contact you've ever seen. And he drags it away across the face. He's 2 goals, 1. And North by 23 after 23 minutes of the third.
Now, can they get it in all right? Waters kicks to himself and now kicks towards the 50. And they found a bit of space there for Embley to take the mark. Half-back flank, goes the short pass. Scott Selwood marks, probably now true half-back flank. City side. Oh, he tries to get round the man on the mark and is pinned. Well done by Bastanak. He works the ball up the ground. Finishes with Goldstein. His hand pass a bit high, but well hauled in there by Anthony on the run. He bounces it through. Sensational goal, but it came from another mistake by the Eagles. 3 goals to Liam Anthony. North 14-11, lead the Eagles 10-6.
Footy Park, Matt Clinch.
43-point lead to the Brisbane Lions. Jonathan Brown has just kicked his 4th goal there, 8-7-55, leading Port Adelaide 1-6-12, 11 minutes gone in the second quarter.
Well, I've just worked out the North Melbourne game plan, and that is let the West Coast Eagles have the footy, because, fellas, they'll give it back to us, and we'll punish them. And it's just terrible. I mean, at this level, the lack of ability to use the football properly, it's not as if there's an enormous amount of pressure on them. They're causing it themselves, and they're their worst enemy. And the difference, the gap that's opening up now between both these sides in terms of effective use of the ball is getting very, very large.
Stan Ells and Chris Grant on Grandstand AFL. It's large and it is alarming as well. Cox wins the tap. There's no follow-up possession. Adam White.
Just keep your eye on Dean Cox. He's a frustrated man at the moment. He was on the bench before. He absolutely gave it to Matt Spanger. They had a real choice words with each other, and Dean Cox wasn't impressed. Even coming out on the ground now, he's arguing with the umpire. He's not your normal Dean Cox.
He's getting the tap. He didn't put it to advantage. Shuey, though, is tracking the ball at centre half back, and he did quite well. Delivers out to the wing. Rosa takes the mark. He looks forward. Delivers 25 metres in that direction for Ebert. He stands on the boundary line inside the 50. Kennedy with the flight made the spoil. Marston against Wells. Wells is the tackler. He jars the ball free. He kept it in, he mightn't have really. Kennedy works the play through Dalziel to Scott Selwood. Kicks to full forward, bouncing ball. Brown takes it, hand pass to Nat Nui. Reaches up over the top, tried to guide it to his boot. Would have been spectacular if he had. He didn't though. And it's a North Melbourne free kick at full-back to end that play.
Sam Wright with the free kick. The teenager goes out wide. Finds Hansen, who kicks down the line. Glass in front, drops a mark that he might have taken. It's grabbed by Hale. He kicks over the wing, and Embley takes a defensive mark for the Eagles. Wheels around in a big circle. Andrew Embley kicks towards centre half forward. Marston is there. Punch away from him. Harvey there to sweep up. Hand pass to Hansen. Further afield to Hale. Back to Harvey. Might have a world record here today after getting nothing last week. Kick by Harvey towards half forward. Oh, big leap by Warren, but no mark. It is rowed by Anthony. Anthony taken the ground and a good tackle. Play on, says the umpire, and the Eagles have it. Selwood. Back he goes to Rosa, and across in front of goal to Adam Selwood, who marks near defensive goal screen.
Ebert is running into the pocket to offer something. Adam Selwood goes a little bit longer, and Kennedy outside the defensive 50 marks. A couple of runners to the side. He dabs it for Cox. Takes some mark under duress. Hand passes to Ebert. It's just a dreadful looping hand pass to the wing. Pritis fights desperately to retain possession, but he's got some competition for it. Ball is held up on the logo for a bounce. I think there's a stat that clubs are using at the moment that says 62% of scores come from turnovers. Well, Fair Dinkum North would have got 95% of their scores from the Eagles' turnovers this afternoon. tossed up on this occasion. Actually clears the pack. Schofield to Rosa to Prittis, up to right half forward. Mark taken by Lacroix. Hand passes inside the 50. Kennedy does a 360 and across his boot comes Daniel Wells to make the smother.
Fantastic, Daniel Wells. They're the sort of efforts that's what'll bring the best out of Daniel Wells. It was a fantastic smother.
You know my concern? I don't think he values it as much as we do.
You're probably right, Stan.
He probably didn't get a buzz out of that.
Yeah, let's watch for his next one. He might take half an hour to recover, that's all. From the boundary, throw-ins hacked out of there by Bastanak for the Kangaroos. Short of the wing, taken by Waters of the Eagles. Hand pass up towards half forward. Running around in circle is Kerr after getting it from Dalziel. Kerr's kick comes out wide. Chance for Rosa. 47 metres out. Good drop punt for a goal. Matt Rosa gets his first score for the day. And they're matching them. It's 4 goals each in this third quarter. And North 14-11 lead the Eagles 11-6.
Matt Clinch, Footy Park.
Brisbane out by 49 points, 9-8-62 to Port Adelaide 1-7-13. Brown has 4, Favola has 2, and as impressive as Brisbane have been, Port Adelaide have been poor.
Well, they're hanging in, West Coast Eagles. That's the best you can say. And I might say really got stuck into Daniel Kerr. Just his benefit to this side and getting the footy, and we just saw it then in traffic, got the footy. He's not playing his peak, but his ability to go back, steady himself, see Rosa out the corner of his eyes, give it to him, and it was a wonderful finish by Rosa for a badly needed goal.
Bounce back in the middle, Cox down to Kerr. Oh, the bounce was outside the 2 circles. So with 83 seconds left in the term, the Eagles, if they could grab one more, they'll be right in at the final change. They're down by 23, having been comprehensively outplayed. Ball in dispute in the middle. Bastanak wins. It slips away from the contact. Hand passed up in the air, though. Adam Selwood spikes it down to Kerr. Gets it to the boot. Sets it up to the 50. Hard ball to be won. Lacroix was dumped. Not sure that he had it. Prittis with a hand pass. Waters inside the 50. Mitch Brown onto Lacroix. Has to go. Does! He's got 5, Mark Lacroix. And they will be in it at the last change, the Eagles. 12-6-78. They trail North Melbourne 14-11-95.
Well, that's what they need to do. They balled it up again or threw it up again. It was a good clearance. They pushed the ball forward. They used good hands. The guy that got free actually kicked the ball when he needed to, and that was Lacroix. He kicked it when he needed to. Yes, he was only 25 metres out from goal, but 5 goals. Gee, he's turning out to be very, very valuable for the Eagles at the moment.
Well, he was great then because he led up the ground. He was crunched. He was on the deck, but he regathered his footing and sprinted towards goal, got it back and kicked the goal on the run. So a terrific second effort. Bounce back in the middle. Cox wins. The whistle's gone. It's going to be a free kick here to the Kangaroos off the ball, and Bastanak will take the free for the Kangaroos. I like the look of this youngster. From the circles, nobody stands his mark. So he thumps it long. Inside centre half forward. McIntosh. Oh, it's all Kangaroos at the back. It's grabbed by Hale. He bounces it through for a goal. A quick answer within 25 seconds. He's kicked 3. The hirsute David Hale. And North 15-11, 101 lead the Eagles 12-6-78.
Well, that nearly sums up the game to me because West Coast come back. Looks as if they do some good things. Then all of a sudden, they just make a basic error. Nobody's on the mark. So Bastanak takes off. He gains those extra few yards. The kick is such because of that. Goes to the pack. It's able to come over the back. West Coast Eagles players go to ground. The big man, Hale, keeps his feet. Can't believe his luck. Just bends down at his shoelaces, puts the ball, drops it onto his boot. Bang, they've kicked the answering goal.
What an important answer to 23-point leaders in the shadows of three-quarter time North Melbourne. Goldstein the tap. Cox might win the footy. No, Goldstein tackles him out of it. Adams with half a kick. It'll land on the wing and Wills leads the chase. He runs over the top of it but darts back and wins it. Sets it up inside the 50. Warren's in front. Embley over his shoulder. No free kick. Warren stays in the contest. Has it. Slings it onto the boot. It'll bounce near goal and away from the target for a throw-in. A metre away from the behind post. Probably not time. Outside of the ruckman throwing it onto his boots. McIntosh and Cox. Cox fists it to the boundary, and that is three-quarter time. North Melbourne extended their lead by 4 points in the term, and they turn for home 23 points in front. 15-11, 101 to North Melbourne, 12-6, 78. Goal kickers, 3 for Liam Anthony and David Hale, 2 for Warren, Thomas and Edwards, with singles to McIntosh, Zeeble and Urquhart. From the Eagles, 5 for LeCras, the rest are singles. Brown, Ebert, Nanui, Kennedy, Cox, Rosa and Ashley Hansen. North by 23 points. Matt Clinch, Footy Park.
Brett Ebert going back to try and give Port Adelaide back-to-back goals and just give them some hope heading into half-time. At the moment, it's a 42-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions as Ebert misses the shot at goal, so mark that down as 41. So Brisbane 9-8-62 to Port Adelaide 3-8-26. Just quickly, the goal kickers. Jonathan Brown has 4. 2 of them he's kicked on the goal line. Brendan Favola has 2, including one in which he laid a tackle and then snapped it across his body from the boundary line, which would have Carlton supporters bleeding. The other goal kickers for Port Adelaide, Schultz and Ebert, their only goal kickers. The individuals for the Brisbane Lions, Patfull and, should I say, Sherman has 2 as well. So a 36-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions, a couple of minutes away from half-time.
North by 23 on Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio, Radio Australia, Digital Radio and streaming at afl.com.au.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Holmes from ABC TV's Media Watch, and now I'm also writing for The Drum, a new ABC website featuring thoughtful and thought-provoking analysis from a range of ABC journalists. At The Drum, I'll be banging on about media mostly, but other soloists will be doing riffs on just about everything under the sun. Check out what's making the loudest noise at abc.net.au/The Drum. Expert analysis and opinion from those external commentators. abc.net.au/The Drum.
Grandstand AFL.
Got it to Bastanak. He rolls it at the goal front. Oh, clever stuff by Lindsay Thomas. Balls to the side. LeCras swings it at goal. He's kicked his 4th. He's a classy player, Martin LeCras.
LeCras hand pass to Cox, 20 out. He rolls it along the ground for a goal. Dean Cox to Zeeble. Back he goes. The kick for goal is fantastic by Urquhart.
The kick inside the 50 from Zeeble. Falls away of Thomas and he snaps quite brilliantly. Hand passes to Nat Nui. He can take the shot at goal from 45 and nail it.
But well hauled in there by Anthony on the run. He bounces it through. Sensational goal.
Waters inside the 50. Mitch Brown onto LeCras. Has to go. Does.
McIntosh. Oh, it's all kangaroos at the back. It's grabbed by Hale. He bounces it through for a goal.
Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio.
5 goals each in the third term. It's North by 23 at the final change.
Well, it was look, another one of those strange quarters because North just seemed to have all the answers. Players racking up possessions. Swallow, Harvey continues on his merry way. Young Zeeble, Balsanak, those type of players just getting heaps of the footy, and they're just cleaner, much more purposeful. They really seem to have a game plan and know where they're going, whereas I think the only thing that really held them back at that point of time was the fact that they just wasted some shots on goal. They seemed to be set alight early by young Thomas, who had been very quiet, but he just seemed to be going. But then they wasted some opportunities and looked better. But having said that, I just made the call. I don't want to, sound stupid about this, but every time West Coast seem to actually put themselves and grind their way back into the game, they make some terrible errors, just some dreadful errors, and turn over the footy and things like that. But having said that, they're hanging in. I mean, they've only been outscored by something like about 4 points in that quarter, and so they're just hanging in. What they need is they just need a general lift all over the place. And I think probably if you look at Kerr, for example, dreadful first half, not a scintillating third term, but last started to get a bit of the footy, and also when he got it, started to use it. And with LeCras up the forward line, they just look dangerous. If they can give him more of a chance instead of just bombing in, give him a chance, you would think that they really have an opportunity to get back in this game. This game is not beyond them. But the bottom line is that they've just got to stop doing those stupid things like we saw. They kicked the 2 goals, 20-minute mark. Rosa and Leclerc kick goal. Gee, they're back in it, you think, and then all of a sudden, a stupid holding on at a centre bounce infringement. Bolsonac gets the free. Nobody stands a mark, and the kid's able to run. Instead of him having to kick over somebody on the mark, he gains 10 or 15 metres, kicks the ball into the danger area. Hale swoops on and kicks a goal and undo all the damage in that way. North have been by far the better side, but you just get the impression if West Coast could put it together, they are not out of this game.
I've seen one of the most unusual things I've seen at a huddle. The Eagles are using a mobile phone. Dean Cox was on the mobile phone, and now Nick Natnui is on the mobile phone.
Obviously, somebody's watching them at some stage. Are they up behind? Is there a spot up behind the goals? Are they?
How unusual that is. Sorry, Chris.
I haven't seen that before, Jared. I've never seen the mobile phone being brought out there before.
And he's not being texted by Warney.
Well, no. Maybe he's on his phone to his mum. He might be calling mum, what would you like for dinner tonight, Nick? No, look, Stan, getting back to the game just for a moment, it has been the Eagles' mistakes that have stood out. I think that North Melbourne played reasonably well. They certainly probably could be further in front if they had a kick straight. The last couple of shots on goal, if they had made the most of those, then really the margin would be out of the reach of the Eagles. But, you know, it'll only take 5 or 10 minutes of pretty good football from the Eagles to be drawing level. And, you know, look, if North Melbourne get the first goal here, I don't see the Eagles coming back. But they're not out of it by any stretch.
Still a game, says Chris Grant. Stan Ells, 23 points up North Melbourne. Start of the final term. Goldstein down to Zeeble. Beautiful kick to half forward. Wright takes the mark. Bounces away. Has a bounce. Crosses 50. Delivers at the goal front. Contest on the line. No mark taken. They pile in. Ball is lost under there somewhere to be bounced.
To three-quarter time, Brent Harvey, 35 possessions, 123 Dream Team points. Andrew Swallow, 97 points. Liam Anthony, 93.
North Melbourne looking for the early goal. It's going to be bounced 10 metres away from the target area. Cox knocks it wide of the pack, but Boomer Harvey is there. He gets at the left boot. How fitting! How fitting that Boomer Harvey should put up the goal, which has North safe. The first of the final term in a match he has utterly dominated. 16-11, 107 to West Coast 12-6, 78.
Well, we said a minute ago that if North Melbourne get the first goal, the Eagles haven't been playing well enough throughout the course of the night or the course of the afternoon to be able to drag this one back from here. And you're right, Jared, how fitting. The best player on the ground puts it almost out of the reach, you'd say, of the Eagles. And what a great response from the skipper.
He's the only bloke who's got over 100, and he's into the 140s by now. ...107 plays 78. Bounce in the middle, hit out one by Cox down to Kerr. He has a bit of a fumble, flips the ball up in the air, and the non-officiating umpire has seen a hold and has given the Eagles a free kick to Prittis in the circles. He's fought manfully for the Eagles today, Matt Prittis. Draws the man on the mark, gets the hand pass away to Scott Selwood. He's on the run, ran a fair way, kicks long towards full forward. There's no mark. Chance for Leclerc, but he runs out of room as the ball beats him over the line in the forward pocket. North 16-11 lead the West Coast 12 goals 6. Leading Dream Teamers for the Eagles, Embley 91, Ebert 90, Rosa 83, Jones 80.
Deep forward. West Coast, who must come up with some answers. Cox wins the tap, follows up at ground level, lost the footy though, and Thompson got caught over the top with it. The umpire circles and says he's going to bounce it 40 away from West Coast goal. 29 points down, the visitors, and staring at a 0-3 start to a season in which they were certain they would improve. Nothing from the bounce. Oh, hang on, there's a free kick going Prittis' way. It seemed that ball had been tapped directly to Swallow, and he was instantaneously tackled to the ground. And 100 times out of 100, you just see the umpire bounce that, and this time he decides to pay holding the ball. That's a little odd. Matt Prittis is the beneficiary of it. To take full toll, he's through the 50, delivers it goal with a left foot drop, punts, he works it through for a behind. And North Melbourne fans feel a sense of justice. The margin adjusted to 28 points.
I reckon that's the only area of his game that's going to stop him from being an elite player. Priddis, super winner of the footy, but his disposal is just not A grade.
Thompson kicks to himself and then hand passes out wide to Grimer and goes the short pass up the ground where Anthony takes the mark. Still inside defensive 50. He squares the ball across half-back. In fact, kicks it a bit backwards to Thompson. Now he kicks outside the 50 but missed the target. Chance for Zeeble. He tries to keep it alive. Runs the ball over the boundary line, city side of the ground, and causes the stoppage. We'll have a boundary throw in. We've played 4 minutes in the last quarter and North lead 107-79. Maybe Brad Scott's first win as an AFL coach. Cox wins the boundary throw-in, works it down. Harvey gets a hand pass away. It's taken by Kerr of the Eagles. He wheels around and fires out a hand pass to Priddis, who keeps on getting it. Priddis, 55 out, steers the pass to Kennedy, who takes the chest mark right in front.
Hallelujah! They didn't bomb it in. They actually worked them around. Can't believe it. They've found the formula.
Josh Kennedy with 1 goal today. Kicked it in the first quarter. 31 goals last year. Kennedy has taken it right back into the centre square for his run-up. And shoots for goal. And delivers. The Eagles 12-7 trail North 16 goals 11.
Oh, Drew, that was just some purpose on that. It was just fantastic to see. We've been lamenting for the fact that for 3 quarters we've got the footy and they've just bombed it up in the air. Well, then that was so much better, wasn't it? I mean, Kerr had the footy. I think his first thought was to look to kick the ball long. No options there, so he gave a beautiful handball to Priddis. Priddis came round and just a lovely weighted kick. Kennedy able to go onto it and kick a goal from about 35 metres out. That is just so much better by West Coast.
North by 22. 5.5 minutes into the final term. Cox and McIntosh patrolling the ruck. Bastanak is with Kerr. Bounce is a good one. They climb into each other. Kerr receives the footy, gives it to Cox and to Priddis. Quick inside the 50. Kennedy up underneath it. He used the hands to get rid of the defender. It was a pity for them too because Nat knew he had gathered the ball at the back. He has to hand it off. Thompson runs across the defensive goal front. Then hand passes toward it to Grimer. Now to McMahon. This is an unusual way out. He doubles back. Hand passes it back to Grimer. His problem, long with the kick. Harding up over the top of Embley. Didn't hang on to the mark. Kicks it off the ground at the back. Crosses halfway for North. Kerr leads the chase. Gathers off the grass. Takes it away himself. Has a bounce. Chose the right option. Adam Selwood. Now to Embley. Kicks to the 50. There's some method to this. Marston marks. Gives to Rosa. Kicks it sideways. Priddis' mark. Oh, he tried to play on. His hand pass was knocked away. And it breaks down disastrously for West Coast.
And the outlet hand pass comes to Boomer Harvey. He charges down the city wing. He's had 3 or 4 or 5 bounces. He's taken it all the way to half forward. About 6. He balks the hand pass. A Mickey McGuan type run. He goes for goal. Oh! And hits the post. Oh, what a goal that would have been. The poster of all time to Boomer Harvey.
West Coast kicking in long as Belzile. Up over halfway. Ash Hansen leads out. Onto the right boot. Kicks it to Marston. Works it up toward the 50. They've kept it pretty open here. Rosa marks. Hand pass over the top. Kennedy pumps it off to Adam Selwood. Time to shoot. He misses to the right. It is a behind, so we're back at 22 points. Adam White.
Another victim of the early crow, Brent Harvey. He thought it was home.
So did we all.
The crowd's still humming.
Oh, what a run. Actually, Mickey McGuan hardly beat anybody that day, but boom, wow. Well, Waters, you're over the ball. Is he holding it? The umpire doesn't think so. Back into the middle of the pack. It's not going to come out, and the umpire is going to have to ball this up at half forward for the Eagles. What do you think from down there, Whitey? Was it a goal? It was going to be a goal all the way, wasn't it? From the stoppage, it comes to Priddis. It fires away the hand pass. And Ebert's pass is dropped by Kennedy, who got there in plenty of time and spilled an absolute put over the boundary line for a throw-in on the 50.
So the Eagles pushing, bringing themselves undone through some of their disposal. Cox down to Lacroix, can't break out this time, did manage to tow it out of the pack to E, but it falls to Rosa. He can take the snap at goal. It's right as well. 21 points, the West Coast deficits. Matt Clinch, half-time at Footy Park.
Yep, half-time. It's a 39-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions. Jonathan Brown kicking his 5th on the siren. 10-8-68 to Port Adelaide, 3-11-29.
Actually, the Eagles have had a few chances in this last quarter. Well, the kick-in comes to the back of the pack. It's grabbed by Zeeble. His hand pass off. And the kick down the ground straight to the opposition to Brown, who takes the mark. Off he goes to Scott Selwood. Into the centre of the ground to Rosa. Rosa fires away the hand pass to Jones. Further afield. And it's taken by Dalziel. He penetrates the 50, but not good for the forwards again. Hansen gets back there to work the ball across to Grimer. Hand pass away. Taken by Rawlings. Up the ground he goes to Edwards. Edwards kicks over the wing, wide open for the Kangaroos. Here's another chance for Harvey. He marks. He runs away. Has a bounce. Concedes some ground with the hand pass to Swallow. Good pass by Swallow. And Hale marks 49 out in the corridor.
Well, the Eagles stand. They've lost total confidence. They had 5 players free then. They just refused to get the ball to go forward.
The other thing is the ball's kicked to a player in the centre corridor. The man runs past, but he runs past on the outside. So they give it to him and he kicks. So finally they end up taking from the ball from the centre of the ground and they lose possession out near the boundary line. I mean, they should just keep it through the centre of the ground. I mean, it's just ridiculous, silly play.
David Hale doesn't go for the goal. He gives it to Harvey, who takes a chest mark about 42 metres from goal. Well, his last one was the run of all time and hit the post. He has kicked the goal that probably has given North Melbourne enough breathing space to win the game. And if he kicks this one, he'll be chaired off for one of the great comebacks. He was in the deepest hole of all time last week. What a performance here today. Brent Harvey from 45 has missed to the right-hand side. He has actually kicked 1 goal, 3. But he'll have nearly 50 touches in the game. Well, it's 40. He's got time. He's got time to get 10 more. North 16-13 to 13-9.
Spanger kicks in. Thomas goes back with a flight, makes the spoil against Jones and gets the kick away to put North back to full forward. They fly in. Off hands, no clean possession. Adams almost got it, not quite. Kerr does. They all have him. Hand passes to Ebert, to Pritters, to Cox. They get out of half back. Hand pass now to Dalziel. Checks his kick. Up to Ebert. Spreads it to the wing with a hand pass to Rosa. Crosses halfway now to Lacroix. Inside the 50. Ash Hansen out against the boundary. If he turns, he would have seen. Well, he did, but he couldn't quite get it to Kennedy before the coverage came at full forward. So Ash Hansen is in the gutter to the right. He might have to rearrange the furniture a la Jonathan Brown. Chooses not to. This is a severe test. From 40 metres out against the boundary. Hansen on a path to goal. Right to the line. Didn't cross. Back into the field of play. Not for long. Conceded through by the Kangaroos' defence. It's 21 points. At the 12-minute mark, the Kangaroos leading.
The Eagles have kicked 13-10, and I make it 5 rush behinds in their tally of 10. Cox has just come to the bench, and he was tagged all the way to the bench by Bastanak. The teenager has done a fantastic job. Kick in short. Grimer has it. Oh, he didn't kick it 15 metres. Was fumbled by Wells anyway. He goes back with the hand pass back to the goal square. Will they get out of it? A kick close to the boundary line. Was it touched over? Yes, it was. It'll be a boundary throw in just outside the 50. Adam White.
Drew, not sure what the problem is with Tom Swift, but he's been on the bench for quite some time, spending time with the medical team. He has got his knee bandaged. That might be what the problem is, but I don't reckon he's coming back.
Natanui wins in ruck, but the ball comes down to North. Urquhart gets the hand pass to Wells, who kicks to the middle of the ground. Mark dropped by Goldstein, but he'll get a free kick. He was tackled high. Advantage taken by the Kangaroos. Thompson to Harvey for number 41. Or will he get the disposal away? He does by hand. Back to Goldstein. He's as slow as a glacier. He kicks towards full forward. Brown in front, brings the ball to ground for the Eagles.
Marston out to Glass, chips it to half-back. It was touched off the boot. Shuey gives it off to Embley, kicks it woefully off his boot. It's cut off by Rawlings. He'll cross half-back for Wells. Dabs it up to Adams. Has Urquhart running out wide. Gives it instead to Lockie Hansen and on to Urquhart. Has it back to Lockie Hansen at half forward. Into the pocket. Warren against Marston. Warren goes with the one hand. Couldn't mark. Marston hand passes to Scott Selwyn. He got caught with it and he dropped it. He's punished holding the ball. And North Melbourne to get the shot at goal. Close range. And surely enough to finish this off. Sam Wrights gets up with his hair all ruffled. He sticks the tackle.
I think if he was going out to a ball, his hair would be ruffled.
The designer ruffle?
Yeah, I think so.
He's 20 metres out from goal. 19-year-old delivers at goal. He's found the target. And North have found the breathing space again. They're out by 27 points. 17-13, 115 to West Coast, 13-10, 88.
Well, they've been punished again. They've had plenty of the footy. West Coast Eagles couldn't do much with it on the scoreboard. A lot of those rush behinds are just because of dumb kicks kicking right to the goal line. I think that's silly play. And then just not being aware. But having said that, great forward pressure. Coaches, I think supporters of all clubs just love it when forwards really put pressure on the defenders coming out. Fantastic tackle by young Wright. Went back and it was a very nice kick off the boot. We were right behind it here and it never deviated all the way.
Well, a chance for Eagles fans to go crook. The free kicks are 25-15 in favour of the Kangaroos. Bounce in the middle and Hale in the ruck. The umpire's going to recall it for a crooked bounce. Hale against Natanui. We've played 15 and a half minutes in the last quarter. Humpy throws it up. Natanui takes clean possession and hits the ground sprinting. Kicks towards full forward. Terrific play by Nick Natanui. Oh, out of defence. How good is that? Magnificent football down there by Ferrito. He kicks to midfield. Turns it over though. Glass has a chance. He runs into a dead end. Kangaroos have it again. The hand pass comes out to Urquhart, who soccers off the ground back in the direction of Ferrito, who has to do it all again. Now from halfback. Hand pass to Wells. Wells balks a kick now, gives the kick, and the mark at halfback has been taken by Liam Anthony, who has kicked 3 goals today for the Kangaroos, who lead 115-88.
The dead end you mentioned was Lee Adams, who Glass ran into, and he is a sick and sorry lad coming from the field. North almost lose it at half-back. Thompson with a hand pass to Anthony, to Ferrito. He kicks them away from danger, probably not for long. Drifting in on the wing and marking his Glass. Hand passes to Kerr. Looks up to the 50. Tries to pinpoint the pass and does. And it's Adam Selwood coming across to mark, and he can have a shot at goal. Guided out to the left for the angle when they've done all their attacking. When they were within range of North Melbourne, they couldn't kick anything but behinds. Now they're probably just too far back. Selwood from 47. It's at the left-hand post and it misses the wrong side of it. So they've kicked 1 goal, 5 in the term West Coast, and they trail by 26 points.
All the players in half of the ground. Wells kicks to himself and then tries to pinpoint the ball. That's trouble. Comes to the front of the pack to Rosa. He's ridden into the ground by Hansen. The tackle high, said the umpire. Rosa's free, only about 35 out. Gee, a lot of goals in this game have come from free kicks. North leads 17-13 to 13 goals 11. 26 the margin. Haven't hit the 18-minute mark yet. He kicks this, that makes it 20. It's not out of the reach of the Eagles. Rosa from 40. And they continue to spray the ball. That was a hook. That was just a shocking miss. He's kicked 1 goal, 2. And the crowd posted at 18,394. Can't win with kicking like that.
Urquhart plays onto himself into the pocket and kicks long for Hale. He's waving the traffic out to the city wing and delivering in that direction. McIntosh trying to get into it. It came up a little short. Spanger dropped the mark though. Edwards for North. Out to Wells. Hand passed in front of himself. Dumped by Kerr. Wells gets it back. Hand pass to Edwards. On it goes. Bastanak sends it back outside for McIntosh. To the full forward position. They go to ground, the defenders and the attackers, and it's the Eagles who will repel. Jones gets himself into a spot on the last line, but keeps his head about him. Delivers it out to Embley. Hand pass to Kerr. Back to Embley. Over the top to Cox. The old firm running through right half-back. Kicks out to Rosa. Marks on the centre line. Goes without hesitation to Ash Hansen. Forward of halfway, here's Rosa has followed up. Perito comes with him. Rosa gathers, runs into Urquhart, dumped into the ground. Still a chance. Shuey to Marston, misses to the right. There's a litany of misses for the Eagles. Reaches 8 in the final term. They're down by 24 points.
Well, Ashley Hansen, Jared's got to move the ball on faster. It's twice. Once he marked on the boundary line and wanted to go back over the man on the mark when he had Kennedy free, and it was too late to kick to him. On that occasion, it was way too late. By the time he actually decided to kick the ball, they were covered. He's just got to move the ball on faster.
Wells marks the kick in and kicks one to Edwards near the boundary line. Edwards handballs down the line, takes a little bit of a leg break and goes out. And he finds a stoppage on centre wing, city side of the ground. We're at the 20-minute mark of the last quarter, and the Kangaroos look like winning their first game of the year. Cox wins the hit out. It's taken at the back. Good play there by McMahon, who throws it on the left boot. He kicks up towards half forward. It's taken away by Dalziel. Hand pass to Prittis, to Jones. Back in the middle to Brown. His hand pass is knocked down. Well done by McMahon, who follows up getting a toe to the ball. But it's chopped off. Inside defensive 50 for the Eagles and run out of there by Schofield. Schofield to half forward. Turnover after turnover. It's taken here by Grimer, and he goes for the short pass. And Zeeble has it behind the circles. Out in the opens, Brent Harvey. 42 or 43, something like that. What a game. He wants somebody to lead towards him. McIntosh does and drops the mark. But he recovers. He takes the ball away and snaps for goal. It might seal it. It's home. Oh. Clip the padding. Oh, clip the padding. We're right behind it.
I'd already written it down.
We all reckon it's a goal. I take it back. I'll never get excited ever again, especially when Harvey's running down the ground and going for goal.
North by 25. Mitch Brown kicks into the middle of Docklands. Mark taken by Nat Nui. The Eagles rush forward. Hand pass to Embley. Open forward line. The Kra was behind. McMahon backed himself.
Terrible option.
McMahon delivers North out to the city wing. Edwards marks. Sideways with the kick. And they're prepared to be patient for Rito. Holding the ball up. We're inside the last 5 minutes. Crosses half-back. Bouncing ball gathered by Grimer. Hand pass up to Adams, who's got his faculties back. Hand passes to Grimer and to Wells. They're trapped in the middle. Wells tried to run the gauntlet, got caught. Hand passed it away to Anthony. North, well, they're mucking around with the footy. They'll cross halfway. They can muck around with it, though, I suppose. The leader's there. The long Thompson kick is cut off by Prittis. The Eagles try to mount a wave of attack off halfback. Marked by Glass. Hand passes it off. Schofield with the long kick. North have the numbers, and they'll bring it away. Warren is able to gather at halfback.
Ball bounces up to Swallow, centre wing, who hand passes back to Ferrito. Dishes off a little hand pass out wide to Rawlings, to Warren. Plenty of hands on the footy. It's not going very far. He hand passes back. Taken off his bootlaces by Thompson. Thompson gets it back after the hand pass from Rawlings. Kick by Thompson to centre wing. Swallow had to wait for it and gets the ball. Kick by Swallow out wide. Todd Goldstein gives chase, but the ball was too wide for him. Pitches just inside the line and bounces out of bounds at half forward. North 17-14, 116. Lead the Eagles 13-13, 91. A 25-point lead to North after they lost last week by 104. Some sort of a comeback. From the boundary throw-in comes to Swallow. They scrap for it at ground level until eventually Marston works out a hand pass to Kerr. He thought about going backwards and then advances the ball forwards, taken by Prittis into Natanui. He gets his hands free, puts out the hand pass to Rosa. Kick by Rosa towards full forward. Hansen is down there, but the kick far too wide of him and bounces out of bounds in the forward pocket. Kicking lessons for the Eagles this week.
It's right in their forward line. They have wasted some chances. Next Friday night they go back home. They'll play Essendon. From the ruck contest, Natanui's the tackler, but he's done it too enthusiastically and taken Liam Anthony high. Anthony short out of fullback for Wills. Has a look out to his left. Delivers to Goldstein. So they put the club back together during the week, North Melbourne. They're going to get their first win under this new regime. Goldstein sideways to Swallow, got under the kick. Ferrito didn't mark and hands it back to Swallow, who again just gets under his kick. Round the city wing, Harvey's in front, no mark, but he will get the possession. Warren gives it to him. Harvey hand passes out to Urquhart. They'll think about running off half-back. Goldstein, he put it round the laces of Wells. It breaks down. Kerr's coming through. He's caught the two-man tackle. Releases the footy. Wells fights on. Nudged out of there by Ebert, though, for West Coast. Kerr gives it off now. Schofield inside the 50. Natanui's got the field to beat, and he's given away a free kick. North is ticking off the seconds now.
Wells, 10 possessions in the last quarter, 32 for the game. Brady Rawlings had a top game in defence for the Kangaroos, has it in the back pocket, kicks the ball back to the goal line. Thompson comes up the ground, it's marked here by Thompson. What's he going to do with it? Gets the hand pass away to Swallow. Kick by Swallow out to Warren on centre wing. He's got a break on Embley. They're all pretty tired. Kick by Warren. Good running by Swallow. That's fantastic. Nobody in front of him. He's 65 out. He kicks it nearly up to the roof. And a leap down there near the goal square. Unsuccessful by Anthony. Prittis gets another touch and hand passes straight out of bounds. And we'll have a boundary throw in. Well, John Worsfold in his 400th game as a player or coach, 2 premierships as a player, 1 as a coach. But Brad Scott's going to beat him today for his first ever win as a coach.
In the forward pocket for North, a throw in. Cox down to Kerr, trying to break clear. Got tripped on the way through. Hand passes to Waters. Kicks around the city wing. Ash Hansen up defensive side of the wing to mark. Takes a little while to move it on. Natanui's on the lead. Hansen has kicked that out of bounds on the full.
Gee, Jared, it's an AFL team we're watching play here. Their kicking has been terrible today.
They've been wretchedly inefficient. They're going to get beaten by a team that is considered one of the worst 4 in the competition. Rawlings out of half-back, bounces the ball around the wing. Hale down to meet it. Hand passes back to Rawlings. Natanui comes at him, sticks the tackle, jars the footy loose. It's out of play. Matt Clinch, Footy Park.
Yes, back underway in the opening goal of the second half, the way of Port Adelaide. Stephen Salaback to reduce the margin to 33 points. Port Adelaide 4-11-35, trailing Brisbane 10-8-68.
Rawlings, a little hand pass to Wells. Siren signals a breakthrough victory for Brad Scott. And some sort of a comeback by the Kangaroos. Thrashed last week, they get their first win of the season. Well done. Sing along. Final score, North Melbourne 17-14, 116, defeating the West Coast Eagles 13-13, 91, a 25-point lead to the Kangaroos. The goal scorers for North, well, just let the band play on. Mooney kicked 3 for North Melbourne. David Hale also kicked 3. 2 goals to Warren, Thomas and Edwards, and singles for McIntosh, Zeeble, Urquhart, Wright and Harvey. And for West Coast, Mark Lacroix kicked 5 goals, Kennedy kicked 2, and the others were in singles for Brown, Ebert, Natanui, Cox, Rosa and Ashley Hansen. The final score under the roof, North 17-14, 116 to the Eagles 13-13, 91. They played 3 times here, and it's the first time the Kangaroos have beaten the Eagles at Docklands.
The Eagles led by 4 at quarter time. It was North by 19 at the half, 23 at 3/4 time and 25 at the close as they edged away. And there'll be a sense of satisfaction. They belted into each other in a contested training session on Wednesday. A few of the players were certainly the worst for wear. There was the odd fight. Brent Harvey has redeemed himself after the horrors of last week and led his team to a victory very befitting of North Melbourne. It's not the Shinboner spirit, but there is something familiar and recognisable about it.
He went from 5 possessions to 44.
He did leave a few out here last week, so he collected those on the way through as well. The Eagles slink away. We'll discuss them as the post-match unfolds, but they were awful. North by 25 points. We'll be in the rooms for the song and the interviews. We'll open the lines as well shortly. But Stan Elves and Chris Grant, your verdict on what's just taken place.
Well done to North Melbourne, Stan, because, a 100-point loss, it's a big effort to come back and front up and not only play the game of footy, but to come back and actually have a win. Yes, the Eagles haven't been flying themselves, but they came and they played and they trained accordingly and they've delivered the effort that got them the win.
Look, to me, Chris, it was an uninspiring game of football, but I agree with you. North have got the 4 points. And it's just so important, that when you start off a season, that you've got to get some wins on the board. And I think from a young coach's perspective, it is so important because you're talking to them about these are things I want you to do. And if they're not getting those results, there's those little doubts in their mind. Now there's some justification. And he's able to say, there you are, boys, if you play this brand of football, you can do that. Look, to me, they were the better side on the day. And I want to elaborate on that if I can. I think they were the better side because they seemed to work better together. They seemed to have an understanding of what needed to be done. Their ball movement was much more clinical. There was a process of bringing the football out of the defensive area, getting it through the midfield for the runners, and then getting into a forward line that was not static. It would open up, and they had multiple options because they had 10 goal kickers and they had many people to go to. When you looked at West Coast Eagles, I got to tell you, I fear for them because there wasn't much I'm going to take away from today that would enthuse to me. Because for a start, they didn't look to be an enthusiastic side. They were jumped every quarter. It was amazing. Every quarter that North got away. And it's interesting because I reckon this is an indication of whether or not you switch on you want to play. In the first quarter, North, these are the scores. North, young Anthony kicked the goal at the 1 minute mark. Second quarter, Edwards kicked the first goal at 1 minute mark. Third quarter, Thomas at 1:50. Last quarter, Harvey at 1 minute. So this is about a situation. You come out of a break, you come out the start. Are you switched on? Are you ready to go? They weren't today.
Hold your train of thought there, Stan and Chris Grant as well. 1300 222 774 to join us, but we're with the Kangas in the rooms and Adam White.
That's right. Boomer Harvey was first in the rooms. Now Ryan Bastanak is getting sprayed with all the sports drinks as they surround him. Here they go. This will be sung with passion. If it ever gets started. They're waiting for Brad Scott. They want him to get in there. He's got one of those nice new hoodies on. He doesn't want it to get ruined. the song. Brad Scott didn't go into the circle, and I was watching him very closely. He knew most of the words. It's the first time the North Melbourne song has been sung for premiership points in the room. So I tell you what, it just shows how popular Brent Harvey is. So many, whether it be players, coaches, some of the medical team, all going up to him. I know it was a tough build-up for him last week personally. He certainly responded today, and they're just flocking around him. Very popular figure down here. Back upstairs for the moment, then down with an interview after they've done their warm-down.
North by 25 points. Stan, as you were.
Yeah, just to continue on my couple of thoughts before we go to Chris, is that I think that when you're a side, what you're looking for is you're looking for leadership. And it can come in various ways. And I thought today that what we saw a couple of contrasting styles of leadership. I'm going to talk about Harvey. Under enormous pressure, and you're right, Chris, but he bounced back in the best possible way. I thought he was fantastic from that point of view. I think also that what happens, we saw the senior players of North Melbourne really take a grasp on what would happen. And I think the Frito, for example, was a classic case for me. They set the scene in that point of view. When I look at West Coast, I think they let themselves down dramatically, and very disappointed with Kerr in the first half, because this is when the game's nearly set up for grabs. I don't know where he's at. I watched him intently. I don't know whether he's fit or what he is, but he's only going about a half jog. You saw the impact of him when the game was late in the second half and need to get back. He's a quality player, but we didn't see the same urgency from him in that way. Cox is struggling with his demons. Now Embley gets a lot of the footy, but it was around the back and it was out wide. It was those type of things. It was never who was going to step up and who was going to really do this. I got to pat a couple of blokes on the back for them. I thought Pritis is just fantastic. I mean, if they had some of his efforts and what they did, and Lecras giving the opportunity, but gee, they dropped away. The other thing was just about how you use the ball and what you do, and just the setup and the know-how. How North brought the ball in, and they're not a quality side yet, but there was method in bringing to the forward line. They had multiple options, as I mentioned. West Coast, really, I cheered at one stage late in the game when they finally brought the ball in with some method, because it was to get it to half-forward line, then just kick it high in the air. It was almost as if, I've got a kick, I've done my job, all the best, the rest of you. They just don't work and play for each other from that point of view, so that disappoints me. And the other thing is, boy, oh boy, for a side with all the resources they've got and massive backup and massive support, West Coast, they butcher the footy. They just butchered it time and time again, when you might have pat them on the back for some hard work, and it looked as if they were getting back in the contest. They would butcher the footy. So many times they turned it over and just gave North the opportunity to go the way. And even the last quarter, when I thought they still had chances, and Kennedy kicked the goal at the 5-minute mark, but the blazing shots on goal, and to me, they played like they were two Bob Millionaires, where it doesn't matter what I'm going to get in the next couple of minutes. So I'm disappointed with West Coast, and I think they're really going to come under the microscope here, whereas in not a great game, but you'll be pleased if you're a North Melbourne supporter, because there was a lot to like about what happened to them today.
North Melbourne 17-14, 116 over West Coast 13-13, 91. Matt Clinch is watching the match from Footy Park. Matt.
One goal apiece in the third quarter, so it's Brisbane 11-8-74 to Port Adelaide 4-12-36. Brendan Favola just having a shot at goal from 30 metres out on a 45-degree angle to try and kick his third goal of the match. Jonathan Brown has been the star so far. He's kicked 5 goals. His 5th was on half-time, as Favola kicks truly, so he has 3 goals, and the Brisbane Lions now extend their lead to 44 points. 12-8-80 to Port Adelaide, who really have struggled to get in the contest, 4-12-36.
More from Chris Grant and Stan Elves. Your calls as well. 1300 222 774. Brian from Rosebud, first on the line. Brian, welcome to Grandstand AFL.
It's a beautiful day down here on the beach. Great call, boys. The only thing was that I'd just like to comment to Drew. Drew, no one will ever replace Mickey McGuine's run, so don't ever put it into your repertoire.
Fair enough. Nice, Brian. Good to hear from you. Stephen is in Launceston. Stephen, fire away.
Oh, g'day, guys. How you going? Great call. That's the night I'm calling with supporter. And I sat there last week and I listened to Malcolm Blight absolutely bag the crap out of one of North Melbourne's best ever players. I reckon he's in their top 20. And he just come back today and he just said, right, you bit me on the arse, and he just showed that bloke there how good a bloody player he is. And I stand up then I'd take my hat off to Brent Harvey. You are.
Yep.
Fantastic. He really was. He was fantastic today. And when you come back from games like that, guys, you really do need your best player, your most experienced player to lead the way. And sometimes you can have a reasonable game. Sometimes you're intent on the footy, you can put your head over it and bust the packs open. You might not get a lot of the footy, but you're showing the way. Well, he did everything. He was at the foot of the pack, he ran himself into the ground, and none of the Eagles could go with him. None of them at all.
44, it's probably a PB. I wouldn't have thought he'd ever had 44 before. And coming off last week's performance, that is some comeback.
We'll answer that for you very shortly.
Oh, you can do that?
Yes. Craig is in North Fitzroy. Craig, welcome.
Thank you, Jared. Look, I was just calling. I missed the comments before the game about what the crowd was looking at like beforehand as I headed off for the game. But I was just going to, wanted to promote that for all North Melbourne supporters and any others. Days like today are a great day to go into Docklands. You can wander around and there's plenty of room. You can support the players or curse the opposition, and with a small crowd, there's a chance the players might actually hear it. There's lots of positives to be heading into Docklands, and if I'm lucky enough to live close by, I can pop in like I did today. Got there a little late and left at 3/4 time to get home and watch it on the footy with a cup of coffee. But we should talk up these small games and people accentuate the positives.
The crowd finished up being 18,394. Actually, they give you a progress score on the crowd here on the scoreboard, and at one stage in the last quarter, it was 18,383. So 11 people.
Someone rocked in late?
Just lobbed in the last quarter.
They played at Princes Park in 1997. There were 13,000, and they've had pitiful crowds at smaller venues. They had 11,000 at Manuka, 9,000 at Manuka, 8,000 at Manuka, and 6,000 last year at Carrara. So they're not absolutely used to playing in front of roaring stands, these two teams, when they do front up. But the sentiment is about right. Lyndon from Hobart. Lyndon, hello.
First of all, apart from Brent Harvey, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the most touches he's had in the game since 2002. Apart from him and maybe Nat Nui, that's possibly one of the lowest standards of games I've seen in a long time. I mean, the intent was there, but the skills as a whole were just quite poor.
Yeah, well, you're only echoing our comments throughout the course of the day, Lyndon, that it was just amazing. I thought early on I tried to give them a little bit of poetic license, because I felt that they were so anxious and that they wanted to do well, both sides, trying to impress and coming off. But as they settled down, it was just amazing. So often that the good work and the hard work by a side, they just turned the footy over with some of the most basic things we've ever seen, and it was disappointing. And I just mentioned any chance West Coast had, I mean, they just blew it all the time. They were hanging in, but every time you thought they might get a bit of a run on, they'd just turn it over. There's no doubt at the end of the day, and that if you look at in terms of the use of the footy and the effectiveness of it, that's one of the major areas why the Kangaroos beat them.
When did you reckon his previous highest was?
Previous highest, he had 40 back in 2002. They won the game, but I couldn't tell you who it was against.
Round 13 against Collingwood. You're a good judge, Drew. You've got a great feel for these things. That's career high. Yep. Today, our Northern Grandstand audience and our Western Australian audience departing. North Melbourne 17-14, 116 over West Coast 13-13, 91. The Kangas with their first win of the season. The Eagles without one through 3 rounds. On we go for the rest of our country with our full post-match straight down to the Kangaroos rooms with Adam White.
Sitting down with Daniel Wells. Daniel, first of all, personally, terrific game today. Over 30 possessions and a big part of the win.
It was good to have an impact on the end result, but I thought the team played a real team effort, and I suppose it's a big standout with Brent Harvey, the way he played last week, and to stand up as our captain. We supported him like never before, and that's just what we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep moving forward.
We had a chat to Darren Crocker before the game, and he was talking about the role that Brent played during the week. He obviously wasn't happy with his own game, as the same with the team, but he played a big role during the week. Can you explain exactly the influence he had?
He's an ultimate professional, Brent Harvey, and our leader. So he spoke to the boys only once or twice. That's all he needs to say. When you command that, that respect, you don't need to say too much. Boys knew we let each other down last weekend just with our support for one another and our effort, on the ball. So that was a huge step up. But saying that, it's our first win. We can't get too excited. We'll enjoy the moment, but, in another 10 minutes we're going back to Arden Street to recover and, get ready for the next game.
Take us through exactly what happened last week. We were told about this match practice or something and all the tackling and physical contact. You were there. What exactly happened?
I think people may be blown out of proportion. It was just an honest training session. Blokes just in contested ball. Every club does it, I suppose, after a bad loss like that. And it wasn't nothing over the top. A couple of blokes copped a couple of bad knocks. Probably that's why people thought we were going harder than what we probably should have. But that's training. Everyone's fighting for spots. That's a good thing to have. But last week disappointed, this week pretty happy, so yeah.
Just one final one for me, because I know Chris and Stan have got some questions for you, but your own pre-season, you didn't do a lot, you're coming off injuries, so what sort of percentage fitness would you be at the moment?
Yeah, I'm probably still around about 75, close to 80, so coming a long way back, but Brad's been fantastic and giving me sort of right away to do a couple of things, and the support that he's given me and the team as well, so still probably around 80%, but once you step out here there's no excuses. Nobody cares how much pre-season you've done. If you're playing, you're playing, so I've learned that last year, and I don't make no excuses for any of my performances there.
A couple of questions very quickly before Daniel's going to go into the meeting.
Yeah, Daniel, I'm interested to know if this is what we're going to see more and more of you, that role where you get back into that sort of back area between, say, centre and half-back, and you almost become the general. You're controlling in there, and more important, it looks as if the boys are trying to get the ball to you because you're so good at your set-up skills and coming out. Is that what we're going to expect more of you?
Definitely this week. I spoke to Brad earlier on in the week and said he's going to play me a bit more half-back role, just because in the midfield with the pre-season I had, you really can't run out a full game, so it's just a position, could have been half-forward or even half-back, so it was half-back this week and could change next week.
Yeah, but it suits you.
Stan, Daniel's been called into the room, unfortunately, so he might come back after the meeting. He might come back after the meeting and have another chat with us and answer a few more questions. So Daniel's sort of nodding, saying, yeah, that's okay, as long as the coach lets that happen. Yeah. We got caught off guard there. I thought we had him for a little longer, sorry.
North Melbourne 17-14, 116 over West Coast, 13-13, 91. So the Kangas by 25 points. 1300 222 774 to join us in our post-match. Let's check in again at Footy Park with Matt Clinch.
24 minutes gone in the third quarter. It's Brisbane by 38 points, 12-8-80 to Port Adelaide, 5-12-42. Jonathan Brown has 5 goals for the Brisbane Lions. Brendan Favola has 3, while the best for Port Adelaide, Stephen Salabeck, has 2 goals.
Do you have additional thoughts, Chris? How did Daniel Wells handle himself, given you had the specific brief of watching him today?
Look, I just thought, and it's interesting when you finally get to talk to the player, because it's round 3 and you sort of get a feeling that the player's up and running by now, and really his pre-season's been really hampered. I'm more intrigued and be really watching Daniel to see what his work is like off the ball, because quite a few times throughout the course of the day today, even though he got a lot of the footy, he does tend to just walk, and the really good players never walk. The really good players run between contests. They get to as many contests as they possibly can, and because he's so silky, he gives the ball off and it's in a really good position, and then he stands and waits. And I'll be really keen to see when his fitness comes up, whether Brad Scott's going to allow that to occur.
Can I just add there that my next question to him was, now that we know that you can read the play so well, do you believe now with your fitness you must now push far further and become more of attacking rather than just rack up possessions across there? That was my next question to him, because I think I'll go along with what you're saying. I think he's smart enough and you can become a player who can get a lot of the footy, but that little footy there, he would set up and he'd do a little chip kick to somebody else and set them up, but you never saw the explosive. We didn't see him take on, and that was a massive difference to me today when we saw a Harvey, for example, when he got the ball, he took them on, he ran at them, and he caused problems. Now, if you just think in that situation, try and put yourself in this picture, you get the ball at half-back and you go back on, you slot it to somebody else, then you don't get involved. That's nowhere near the pressure you put on the opposition if you then run straight at them. And all of a sudden the defence defensive area. What are we going to do? We're going to go. What are we going to do? He must now add that to his game to become a genuine player and to deliver the talent that he's got. That's right. And he's had 30 plus possessions today on what you perceive as being a reasonable game. I don't think he was outstanding today, but I just thought the fact that he read the play well, what he's saying is 75%, 80% fitness. There's a lot more there for him. If he just realises that he watches the Brent Harveys and he gets tapes of Scott West and these types of guys who get to as many contests as they possibly can. I agree with you, Stan. I made the call before the game. I think he's better suited to being behind the ball. Aaron Davies seems to be well suited for that position, and he clearly has the ability to read the play well. But even as a defender, you've got to be able to link up. And the really good defenders, and I'm thinking of Bulldogs like the Lindsay Gilbys, they run hard to get the next possession. And once he adds that into his game, I'm sure Brad Scott will be on to him about it. Once his fitness lifts, he'll be an important player for them.
It's a good cue to take the rest of the numbers from Jared Cameron from the afternoon's footy.
Total disposals was North Melbourne 436 to West Coast 408. North Melbourne had 41 more kicks, but West Coast had 13 more handballs than North Melbourne. Marks, it was North Melbourne 120 to 99. Marks inside 50, North Melbourne 14, West Coast 8. Clearances favoured West Coast 37 to 32, and it was 17 to 13 out of the centre. Contested possession, North Melbourne 125 to West Coast 108, and free kicks, it was North Melbourne 27 to 17. Individually, Boomer Harvey had 44 disposals. He had 19 kicks and 25 hand passes. He also took 11 marks and had 12 contested possessions. Andrew Swallow 34 touches, Wells 33, Rawlings 31, Ferrito and Anthony 27, and Ryan Basinick had 24 disposals. For West Coast, Matthew Priddis 36 disposals, 9 kicks and 27 hand passes. Rosa 29, Brad Ebert 26 disposals, Delzeal and Embley 24, and Jones 23. The Dream Team points. Brent Harvey finished with 163 Dream Team points. That was the highest number in the game. He had 43 more than the next highest.
Did you have him as your skipper as well, Stan? Didn't show that much faith.
No, I didn't.
326 would have been handy.
Juicy.
That was unfortunate for Stan. Andrew Swallow 119, Wells 116, and Anthony 115. For West Coast, Priddis, despite having 19 contested possessions, 11 more than any of his teammates, 8 more clearances than any of his teammates, and 7 more disposals than any of his teammates, didn't have the highest number of Dream Team points. He had 116 Dream Team points, but Matt Rosa had 120. Rosa's 20 kicks and 9 hand passes, as compared with Priddis, 9 kicks and 27 hand passes. Embley 111 points, Ebert 111, and Jones 87. And finally, Jared, the highest number of points in a single quarter Dream Team was Aaron Edwards, who had 57 in the second quarter, and he had 26 points in the other 3 quarters to finish with 83 for the game.
He burned himself out. I like it. Hey, Danny Wills is back with you, Stan, so you can follow up now that he's out of his meeting.
Are you there, Dan?
Yeah, Daniel's here.
Yeah, Stan Ells, just following up my question to you earlier where I talked about your role, and my next one was a lead on was that now with that fitness, if playing that role, I think the thing we now need from you, and I'm sure you're conscious of, is now to become that real attacking player. I noticed today that because of your lack of fitness, you could lay the ball off, but you couldn't really then sprint enough to become the real link-up and make those sorties into the forward line. Is that a fair call?
Yeah, that's a fair call. That's the, I suppose, the ultimate thing. Brad spoke to me, he said we want you to be real attacking off half-back and get some good delivery down through the midfield. And if I can get the fitness up and get the old 1-2s happening and kick it over, zones that the club set up these days and to a forward line advantage, that'd be fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, Daniel, it's Chris Grant here. I'm really interested to see how you follow up this year because, it's obviously been in your mind pressure on yourself because there's pressure that every player puts on their own individual standards, and I'm really intrigued to see how you're going to go under Brad because I really enjoy listening to what he's got to say about his players because you can see that he's going to be very, very honest with you, and he's also going to be not only just to the point, but he's going to be also encouraging, and that must be great for a player like yourself.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think with Brad, I suppose he's just consistent with what he's preaching, and his manner doesn't change too much. He's he gets his point across, whether we've been beaten by 103 or whether we just won a game. It's the same point, same message, and he's very consistent, and blokes can can relate to that. So we can come up and ask some questions and just get on with it. But he's been unreal so far.
And your fitness being at your call 75 to 80%, what will you now do from week to week? There's obviously a lot of recovery time early in the week, but your fitness being down, what's Daniel Wells going to do to get his fitness up so we can see the best of you?
I think the best possible way is probably just through match fitness, which is on the weekend. It's pretty hard, pretty tough games. I think last week we didn't feel like this last week. And we were chasing behind all day, and we feel absolutely smashed. And that's what it takes to win at this level. So just recovery for the first couple of days. Give the groins a bit of a rest and all the body parts. But it's going to be hard to sort of do the little things to try and get fit during the week. But I'm sure we'll be doing some more bikes and some swimming just to try and catch up. But definitely during the match is when I have to increase the workload.
Gee, Brad must have been to the point in his post-matcher because you weren't away from us very long. What did he just quickly have to say to you?
I just said, a couple of young kids, first and second year players that have played with us, Evil, Sammy Wright, Bassinat, just, fantastic to come in and play their roles. And I suppose he spoke about our skipper and what true champions really do, bounce back from that. And we just got to, keep going now as a team because it's only one win, but it's an exciting win, and it's good to see everybody back in the rooms and supporting us. But at the end of the day, we've only won one game, so we're looking forward to getting, I suppose, a review over, and then we can just focus on Sydney next week.
Does he allow you to enjoy it for a little while, or are you straight back to Arden Street? Is it going to be Arden when you get over there?
No, he does. He's pretty good like that, but I think it's important you can sort of focus on the losses too much and also on the wins. So he's got to find that happy medium place and not get too carried away, because next week you get smacked between the eyes pretty easily if you're not switched on.
Dan, I'm sure you can appreciate this. There were days where you weren't keen to get back to Arden Street, but with the new facilities, I guess it's a different ball game.
Oh, it's fantastic. When I got there, we were training under, grandstand. I was about to fall over and rats running around. So it's a whole new look and a whole new ball game. But end of the day, 20 kilos are 20 kilos, but I suppose everything helps.
Daniel, good of you to come back. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Daniel Wells with us in the North Melbourne rooms. Victorious today over the West Coast by 25 points.
The rooms were about the same when you were there. Do you have the Rats as well in the 70s?
Oh, no, the Rats had moved out. No, they said they weren't going to go down market.
They weren't going to share a room with Kecker.
And Crozza.
And Les is in his truck driving towards, is it Pylong, Les? Hello.
How you going there, fellas?
Good.
Question. Why was Dean Cox and Matt Nui on the phone at 3/4 time?
Great question, Les. Adam White's going to switch rooms and try to get that very answer for us.
It was extraordinary, though, Jared, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was. I'd never seen that. I'd never seen that before.
You can only guess that they have somebody watching them from some height, or they've got some type of stuff that they're relaying back to them in terms of this is what's happening in that way. So, but I've got to be honest with you, if it's been done before, I haven't seen it.
I would sincerely doubt that that's legal, just incidentally. My gut feeling is we won't see that again.
Well, I think if you had an earpiece in during the game, that's one thing, but during breaks, is that illegal?
19,702 coaches. Why do you need the mobile phone? Look, I think there would actually be issues of integrity.
Well, somebody could have been doing a video review and being able to point out stuff that they've seen from a video review. Now, is that overstepping the line?
Using the mobile phone in a huddle, I would think, is overstepping the line. Just on issues of who could be on the other end of the phone if you allowed that sort of thing. No, that's so unusual that I doubt
who would be the most underhand person you could think of who could be on the other end?
Well, sports all around the world have had difficulties with corruption. That's clearly not what's going on here. But if you allow mobile phones into huddles during matches to talk to whoever you want to talk to, I reckon that's a problem for your sport.
I don't see it myself.
They don't allow mobile phones in the dressing rooms of cricket matches anymore. The dressing rooms. Imagine if at second slip you could pull out your mobile phone and just have a word to somebody. How would you feel about that?
It's an interesting point.
I think in a game of cricket there may be some issues about betting, but are there issues? When was it? 3/4 time?
Yep.
3/4 time. Issues about betting in football? I don't see how some bookie from Lahore on the phone at 3/4 time could affect anything.
Yeah, I'll bet you that's how cricket used to feel as well.
Anyway, it's a very interesting discussion. Mighty interesting.
Let's see if we can get to the bottom of
the
it.
answer. But I reckon if it's one of the assistant coaches and he's upstairs and he has access to a video and he quickly can have a look at some edited passages of play and make a point to Nick Natanui at 3/4 time, I don't see a problem with that.
And that's clearly what's going on. And I wouldn't have a problem with that either. But I just think as an issue, that won't be allowed. We'll find out a bit more about that. We'll just take Kevin in Corumburra first. Kevin, welcome to Grandstand AFL.
Hello, Jared. I know you're all well. Jared, just a question for you, being a stats man. Can you either tell me or work out through your various pages of literature that you've got, who is the coach in the VFL or AFL that has coached the most amount of games without a premiership?
Well,
Yep. Yeah. So Mark Thompson was close to that mark before he won one.
Was he?
And Rodney Eade would be...
I don't know for sure, but I think you might find it is a current coach.
Yeah, well, I would think it would be Rodney Eade.
I think Rodney Eade's the current one, yeah.
We'll have you can lay that on the table as well. We'll look into that. We've got some homework to do.
Well, it was he and Terry Wallace as of last year, so now that Terry Wallace is not there, you gather it's better be Rocket, don't you?
And is Rocket past him in games coached? Or was Plough ahead for games coached?
They were pretty close. It was like they'd played almost the same amount of games of football at senior level, 250 odd, and they'd almost coached about the same amount. So they were really close in stats, considering they were coming from Hawthorn. It was a really ironic stat between the two of them.
We'll get you an answer on that, Kevin. The AFL says that they'll be looking into the use of the mobile phones come Monday. There are rules relating to the use of electronic devices on the field. It's not allowed, but unclear at this stage what the penalty or the exact wording of that rule would be. Matt Clinch, have you got 3/4 time at Footy Park?
Yep, we do. It's a 45-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions, 14-9-93 to Port Adelaide 6-12-48. Port Adelaide tried hard to work their way back into the contest, but it ended up being 3 goals apiece in the third quarter to give Brisbane a comfortable 45-point lead at 3/4 time. Jonathan Brown didn't kick a goal after half-time so far, 5 goals to his name. Brendan Favola has 3 and Justin Sherman has 3 also, while for Port Adelaide, Stephen Salopek kicked 2 goals all in that third quarter to be Port Adelaide's only multiple goal kicker. They've just flashed the odds on the screen. Port Adelaide are at $20. I don't think anyone's going to be getting on them.
No, they sound like they've been pretty good, the Lions, right from the outset.
For as good as Brisbane have been, Port Adelaide have been terribly poor. I know Stan made the comment throughout your call, the amount of goals that were kicked from turnovers, and Todd Panfield just kicked the perfect example of that just before 3/4 time, where Port Adelaide had 2 handballs right on the last line of defence, turned it over, and Banfield snapped over his shoulder for a goal, and that pretty much summed up the game for Port Adelaide.
Good on you, Matt. We'll stay close during the final term. Grant is in Hobart, talking to Stan Elves and Chris Grant. Grant, hello.
G'day, Jared. Thanks for taking my call. Got a question for Stan and Chris. My team's Carlton. I was just going to ask you how you think they're going to go this year. Personally, I think they're going to finish probably no higher than 10th, due to the fact that the Carlton management and coach got rid of probably the best full forward they've had in 100 years. What's your opinion, fellas?
Well, he might have been the best full forward, but he wasn't the best person to be around the club, and he was distracting from where they want to go. And I think they've made a decision on that. Look, every club, and I'll say this, every club sets their culture by which they want to be known, the values that they create, and the players are very strong on those. And the problem with Brendan is that he kept going outside of that, and so that was the big challenge. And I think that the reality is that nobody's ever doubted his ability as a great player on the field, but those areas were just too distracting. I think that the big question now is going to be, still the areas that I think of Carlton that just need to develop. We talk about the forward line and how they're going to cover that. I think that, again, so much pivotal to this is that we're with them is getting their skipper back. I mean, they've got their great player, and unfortunately, he's sitting on the sidelines at the moment. And I think that in watching the games that they've played again, if I've got a real question mark over them, I reckon they'll be able to kick goals. I reckon they'll manufacture goals. To me, their biggest problem is still centre half-back and full-back. When you play the best sides in the competition, and I think, unfortunately, right at this point of time, they've got their two key players in that area are actually playing outside their playing weight, and they're conceding too much. Chris, I don't know your thoughts.
Well, that's what I was going to add, Stan. There's no doubt that I think they're going to be able to have enough of the football through the midfield with Judd, Murphy, Gibbs and those guys going through there. Scotland started the season quite well. There's going to be a lot of footy going in. They're going to have to try and manufacture a few through there. The first couple of games have looked like they've been able to kick enough score to get beat probably half the teams in the competition, but I'm as concerned as you. I'm concerned about their ability to be able to stop the really good teams down in the defensive 50, and those guys just are playing outside their weight, and that's a concern for them.
You got some coaching stats?
Yes. So Wallace had coached 247, Eads coached 272, but the two leaders, John Northey coached 315 matches without a premiership, and Bob Rose 281. So Rocket will go past Bob Rose before they could win a premiership. Were they to win the flag this year, 2290, he would stay second to Northey. Should they not win the flag this year, he would surpass Northey before they could win the flag next year. So he's going to be right up there, Rodney Eade. But John Northey, with 315 matches and no premierships as a coach, leads the way for Kevin. Mick is in Hobart. Mick, welcome to Grandstand AFL.
Thanks, guys. If I could, I've got two really quick ones for you, if that's all right. One is, do you think St Kilda's defence was... I know I'm on a different game to what you're discussing, but do you think it was St Kilda's defence that was good last night, or did Collingwood just kick themselves out of the game through poor work up forward?
I think it's a combination of two, Mick, and I don't want to hedge my bets here, because I think that St Kilda's defence was fantastic in that situation. And why I say that is that I believe that their defence, not just in the back area, but through the midfield and the forward area, you would have noticed that I think that Collingwood spent too much time trying to avoid it and ended up wide. A lot of their shots were out wide. So from that point of view, I think that was a win to St Kilda's defence. Having said that, Mick, there's no doubt that there were still enough chances for Collingwood to nail goals that they should have kicked. Now, when you're 45 metres out and you're within an arc on, say, at least a 45-degree angle and you've got a chance, if you're a full forward in this competition, you've got to nail them. And I think they missed those ones. And unfortunately, as a result, they just didn't get the reward for effort. And you look back in that game, and as good as St Kilda were, and I thought they were fantastic, you just wonder if those shots early on goal that they had and they could have nailed, instead of being, at one stage about 4 goals 11, if they had been 7 or 8 goals the other way, I just think that this game could have taken a whole different complexion.
And the second point, Mick?
I hope I'm not out of line asking this. I don't mean to be. I listened to a little bit of talk back on the radio earlier today, and I listened to Mick Malthouse's comments, and I've watched him a few times on the television after games, and his after game, what do you call it? The
press conference
to the coaches. And I just wonder if the media have upset him that much. Why he's so angry towards media? Why he treats them like they're idiots when he responds? He seems like such an angry man. Why is that?
I just think that stands as a statement rather than a question. Why is Mick angry? That's his persona.
It is his persona. Angry. It's his persona in those areas. I mean, you can meet Mick away from that situation. He's quite different. But I think he walks into those meetings in a very, very defensive mindset.
This afternoon at Docklands, it was North Melbourne 17-14, 116 over West Coast 13-13, 91.
What about when somebody says to Mick, "Do you think you came to play today?" Yes. Oh, does he get stuck in then? Of course we came to play.
A couple of specific questions about this match. Let me ask you about North Melbourne's 8 players who've played fewer than 20 matches. And, I mean, they're clearly a developing squad. This is a good win for them, I reckon, because their character was tested. But probably one at a time. Liam Anthony, who kicked 3 goals.
Oh, really impressed. Had 27 possessions as well as the 3 goals. I mean, he's a very good player, and he's going to be a player who's going to be around for a long time. So, good player, good at ground level, got a reasonably strong body, can take a mark over his head. Yeah, very good player.
Ben Warren went pick 69 in 2006, and he's been brought along slowly, hasn't been sort of able to cement himself in. It was his 12th game today, and he kicked 2 goals.
And there was a little feature on him in the footy record today, and one of the questions is, there's something about you that would surprise people? And he said, yes, my hair is naturally white, I don't dye it.
That is surprising.
He's coming along well, though, isn't he?
Yep.
I mean, I actually thought he played more football than that, to be honest, and it shows a bit. I think there were a couple of times, and I think as a young player, he would have had Brad Scott's voice in the back of his head saying, when the ball's there, you go and get it. Well, the ball was there a couple of times, he went and got it and just dived on it, but there was no one around him. So it's that ability to just be aware of who's around you. But I mean, Brad Scott had made a mention of the young guys in the team when he was first approached about the job, and he liked what he saw, and I think he's one of them.
Jack Zeeble, who broke his leg in round 12 last year, he was pretty heavily favoured for the Rising Star at that point in time. He's played 13 games now.
Look, he didn't have a ripper game today, but the thing that stands out about him is he's one of those players who seems to be going half patient, yet he's got time and space. He's just got an awareness. He's got a very good body, had about 19 possessions today. He's going to be the type of player, I think, who can go in around that midfield. He's got the strong body. I'm trying to think of a couple of situations here today where he has that ability to do something and the opposition think he's going to do it and he doesn't, and he just sends you the wrong way and everything like that. Yeah, he's going to be a very good player for them.
Lee Adams stands 176 centimetres, but he's a little goer.
He's a goer. You took the word out and you love him. He's a goer, and he's one of those blokes who's going to be when the whips are cracking.
Nathan Grimer plays a pretty big role in defence.
He does, and I had him in the better players today. If I look at my notes here, I certainly had got big frame. Is prepared to back himself. The thing I like about him, Chris, and you've played in those situations, it's when you're playing down back, it takes a period of time, and I think it takes a strong person to play in the back half. And why I say that is because you make a mistake, you can get caught the other way. It's very easy to go back in your shell and be defensive and that, but I reckon he's prepared to take them on, and I like that.
Oh, I think it's terrific, Stan. I think that's the thing that stood out again today, and I think he would have taken on what Brad Scott had to say during the week and saying, hey, don't be scared of making mistakes if you've got effort there. I'm going to be on your back if you've made mistakes and you're not trying. But I think he's one of the players who really has that in the back of his mind and say, okay, I'm going to get beaten at times. I'm really impressed with the size of him for such a young guy. He's going to come in leaps and bounds. He's going to be quite a good player.
But, Granty, just to follow up to that, if you're trying and you make a mistake, 20 seconds later you can make up for it and get it again, can't you?
Well, that's true, and that's true. I think skill errors in young players are going to be there because they don't understand and probably aren't aware of how much time and space that they've got sometimes. Sometimes they rush it when they don't need to, and therefore you get those skill errors that come in. But making mistakes when you're really dead set having a crack, when there's lots of players around you and you make a skill error under those circumstances, well, no matter if you're Grimer or you're Brent Harvey, your coach is going to be pretty happy. It's that sustained effort that almost should be the bar for you. And I think he's one of the players who's going to sort of lead them along that journey.
Sam Wright in game number 7 today.
It was interesting. At times, early on, I looked at him and I thought, this kid looks out of place. He's just not up to speed and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, he just took a couple of strong grabs and he just took off. He played with a bit of confidence and things like that. And I'm come away saying, yeah, this boy is going to be a good player for us. The thing I'm saying to you, Jared, and I don't want to be silly about this, but the bottom line is that what you've got to be careful about is that we're judging them from how we see them from outside. I love to get to know their personalities a bit, and because this is just so important. We talk about a kid like Sam Wright. Now, I don't know whether he's an extrovert outgoing, this is the best we've got, or he's a shy kid we've got to get something out of. So there's a reluctance to go too far. But in terms of playing the game and what I've seen, I don't question that part of it. We just need to know those other little bits about them.
I think if you've got hair like that, you're probably a bit of an extrovert. All right, there's a bit of Daisy Thomas about
No, I'll tell you, sometimes that's what do you say? That's a facade.
Okay.
sometimes that's the way they set themselves up, and yet when you get to know them, they're anything but that.
And Ryan Bastanak looks like a beauty.
Ryan who?
Yeah.
I guess.
I think he had an L in there at some stage.
You're watching the game and say, geez, he's got it again. He's got it again. He's very good.
Yes, he's good under pressure, and that's what's such a good thing for a young player. Actually, just getting back onto Sam Wright, a couple of times I watched him play, and I've actually seen him play in the under-18 competition and at Vic Country level in the under-18 championships. He's got the awareness of when to go on his left and when to go on his right. He's quite comfortable going on to his left side. A lot of young players, they step up to the level and they're going to go back to what they know, and that's the predominant foot. And the good thing about him is when he's in trouble, he doesn't mind swinging on the left-hand side. So they've got a bit to work with there, Jared.
I think the interesting thing today, Jared, is that what we've seen, that every one of those boys we've talked about can play. And that might sound a bit silly, can play. And the reason we're able to see it today was they weren't put under the pressure they were last week.
Yep.
Now the next step is to be able to, we know you can play, we know you can get the footy. Now, as you get a little bit older, a little bit maturity, the ability to be able to absorb that pressure that probably the best side at putting pressure on in the competition, arguably, St Kilda, exerted on them last week.
But am I right in saying that Bastanak had most to do with Kerr having a poor day? And Bastanak had 24 possessions. You're playing a bloke like Kerr.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
Give him a fix-up.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic performance for an 18-year-old.
Oh, it is. And I might say this is that it's a wonderful bit of coaching, because if you give the kid, what you'll know is that Kerr's out of sorts and everything like that, although in fairness to him, he fought back in the second half. But the great thing is, Kerr's going to take you to where the footy is. And the kid was able to go to the footy that then beat him and get the footy. That was the real positive for me.
We'll get to see him again next week against Sydney on Saturday afternoon.
Now, that's where we'll learn a little bit about them, because I'm going to tell you, they're going to come against a side who do know how to put pressure on you.
Into the final term at Footy Park. Matt Glitch.
A goal to Port Adelaide, just reducing the margin to 56 points. It's the Brisbane Lions 16-9-105 to Port Adelaide 8-13-61. It's been a little bit improved from Port Adelaide in the final quarter, but look, you can't take anything away from Brisbane. They've been super impressive. Justin Sherman has kicked his fourth goal, a good crumbing effort from him. Jonathan Brown has 5 goals. He hasn't kicked a goal since half-time, and Brendan Favola has 3. But it's been a very impressive performance by the Brisbane Lions. They're going to do it comfortably over Port Adelaide as we're midway through the final quarter.
Good on you, Matt. We asked Whitey to get us an answer on the mobile phones. Adam?
Thanks for that, Jared. I'm down here in the West Coast Rooms. I tell you what, they've been, well, they're fair to say they're very disappointed, really hit the hard by this loss. They feel this was a winnable game today. They're absolutely shattered. Now, we're going to have an interview shortly, but I have found out about the mobile phone use. This is amazing. I believe that the ruck coach didn't travel, so the ruckman in Natanui and Cox were talking to the ruck coach who was back home in Perth in the huddles. So obviously the ruck coach was watching it off the television.
Oh, they're struggling for a kid West Coast.
That's the explanation I've got. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. They were quite open and transparent in saying that, though, so I don't think they believe that they're going to be fined for it. So, yeah, just repeating that the ruck coach talking to the ruckman back home in Perth at quarter time and three-quarter time.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that myself. Now, the AFL might, cause a summit meeting, and there'll be, conferences behind closed doors and conference calls across the Nullarbor and all sorts of investigation take place, but might be a bit of a hoo-ha for a while, and so what?
I reckon they'll just ask him to cease and desist. So we'll hear from you, Whitey, in a moment with an interview.
Yeah, actually, Scott Selwood's coming across very shortly, so he's just having a shower.
Well, the other way they could do it, the ruck coach could text a message on a phone, and any bloke could run out and just show the guy the screen.
Ruck coach could catch the plane.
Well, he might have a role with a waffle club.
Yes.
We don't know that.
Yeah, that's true. So North by 25 points over West Coast, and Brisbane is going to beat Port Adelaide. So Brisbane and St Kilda will be the first two teams unbeaten. Tonight we're broadcasting from the SCG, Sydney Swans against Richmond, with around the grounds coverage from the MCG, where it is Carlton and Essendon squaring up.
Look, it reminds me, can I tell this story? When I was over in Perth about 38 years ago, there was a coach who organised communication to the bench. He might have been suspended from actually being on the ground. So he organised communications from outside. And there was a crossed wire, and they were on the same wavelength as the local taxi company. And this was at South Fremantle, who are the Port team. And the newspaper came out with a headline that said, Port Noise Complaint, which was the popular novel at the time about actions that you can't really talk about on the radio. And it was a fantastic headline, Port Noise Complaint. That was nearly 40 years ago. Just thought I'd get that one past you.
It's very well done, Drew.
Into the rooms. Spidey, take it up.
Thank you, Jared. Down in the West Coast rooms with the youngest of the Selwood brothers, Scott Selwood. Thanks for joining us, Scott. I know it's tough because just the mood down here, this loss has hit you hard.
It is pretty flat. I think we're expecting a win, as you go into every game trying to expect, but we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try and win this one, so we'll just try and bounce back next week and win Friday night.
A 6-day break and a travel back to Perth, so it's not necessarily going to be any easier for you.
No, it is going to be tough, but I think, we're designed for this kind of thing, so we're ready to go, and we're actually, I think everyone wants to play Essendon right now, so we're ready for them and looking forward to it.
Scott, what was the message from the coach? Because a season that promised a lot, I know it was still very early, but just coughing and spluttering a little bit, what was the message from the coach?
It is, it is very early, and I think we still do have very high hopes. And the message is just we need to get our skills right. I think going into 50, we're beating teams everywhere else on the board besides on the scoreboard. So I guess that part of our game is pretty disappointing. But if we can start hitting our targets, that's where big improvements are going to come from.
Scott Selwood has the headphones on, boys. Fire away.
Scotty, just to go on that bit you're talking about, that was what we thought when we were watching the game. One of the big contrasts between both sides is that when the Kangaroos went into their forward line, there seemed to be a lot more method and looking for people, whereas so often you'd work the ball superbly to around about 60 metres out, and then all of a sudden it would come down to just a big bomb kick to a pack of players. And the number of times that the Kangaroo defender about fourth up was able to come over and just smash the ball and out, it must have been frustrating.
It was a little bit frustrating. I think it was frustrating for the forwards because I think our backmen were having that extra handball across half back, and they were having to double back and try and get back into the 50. So I think we were sort of losing our numbers in that there. So I think that's something we've looked at and we're going to work on this week.
Scott, it's Chris Grant here. What was intriguing was that when you played during the first quarter and you really sort of slammed on a couple of goals in that late in that first quarter, it looked like the system was up and running, yet post that, after quarter time, it looked like the system fell down. Did John and the guys talk about that at all?
No, not really. I think it's a four-quarter game, and I think we went into the game, we gave away a couple of early 50s that rewarded them with about 3 goals, I think, pretty early on. So that was pretty disappointing on our behalf, but we know it's a four-quarter game, and we didn't deliver that today. So,
Scotty, I haven't seen your other game, so I'm in the dark, but one of the things I noticed today was that North Melbourne kicked the first goal of every quarter within the first minute or minute and a half. That slow start and enabling a side to get out of the blocks is something that surely you've got to have to rectify.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, to be honest with you, but definitely I think that's going to be a focus area now that we sort of know that. I don't know if it was a slow start from travelling over here or what, or the boys' mindsets, but we seemed pretty switched on. We beat them in most areas of the game. It was just sort of the scoreboard that really affected us.
And then, look, we talk so often about the game, but I mentioned at three-quarter time that, if you could have got your game together or really get some flow and you're a chance. Harvey kicked a goal straight away, but probably I think for the next, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, you actually controlled the game, but you just couldn't find the opening between the big sticks.
Yeah, that's actually something we talked about after the game, is just converting with our goals. We had a lot of hard running from Matty Rosa, but unfortunately he missed in that late last quarter, and converting is going to be a big part of, I think, our next few training drills coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Daniel Kerr had a really difficult time of things in the first half, and there seemed to be quite a visible effort when you came back out after half-time to include him and G him up and get him into the game. Were you sort of aware of that at half-time in particular?
It was mentioned at half-time that his impact was pretty low, so I think he took it upon himself more than anything. I think he knows his performance in the first half wasn't good enough, and I think he's pretty disappointed with how he come out and delivered his first half, but I think his second half he tried to rectify himself pretty well.
You on the plane tonight?
We're off tonight, yeah.
Mum and Dad come down and watch you today?
Yeah, they came down, so I'm just about to say good day to them, I think.
Do they barrack for West Coast because there's two of you playing for the one team?
No, trust me, mate. I've tried to convince them to come over, but I think while the Cats are winning, I think they've jumped on the Cats bandwagon.
Good on you, Scott. We'll let you go and chat to them.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Scott Selwood with us in the West Coast rooms. Let's hear now from Brad Scott, who coached his players' ears off to get their first win of the season.
Today was a great reward for effort, performance. I thought the effort the boys put in was terrific. Sometimes you don't always get rewarded for that effort, but we did today, which was really pleasing.
You couldn't have asked much more from the score back from last week.
No, look, I said in this room last week, that I wasn't worried about him at all because that's what champions do. They bounce back, and he's an absolute out-and-out champion, and he proved that again today. So we're really pleased, and I can't think of a better captain's performance than he produced today. It was fantastic.
You mentioned yesterday you were disappointed you didn't get much help last week. It looked like a concerted effort today, to get him the ball early and also to blocks and those sort of things. You see it that way?
Yeah, I did. I thought the players themselves were very disappointed in the way because they really revere Brent Harvey, so to really desert him like they did last week was really disappointing, and they were keen to atone for that, and I thought they did.
I'm sure you don't sort of stray too far from what you guys are doing, but a win like that must really be seeing you want to get a solid game, like there's got upside,
Yeah, it is just belief. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, we got reward for effort, and we got the structures and the way we want to play was no different today than it has been through the NAB Cup, and it was for the first two rounds of the year. So, nothing really changed there. We're really confident in the direction the club's heading. So, very confident. I was really pleased that the players responded the way they did. And as you said, they gain a lot of belief that when we do the things that we practice and we talk about, we can get the result.
You're pleased with it, but what about things like ball movement or defensive stages like that?
Oh, we've still got a lot to work on. We ended up getting the result today, but we've still got a hell of a lot of coaching to do. We've got a lot of, we're still trying to educate our players to the way that we want to play, and we're trying to train them that way as well. So, we're under no illusions as to the amount of work we've got to do. And so we've got to keep, today was great, and the players should be pleased with themselves, but, it doesn't get any easier next week against a hardened side like Sydney. So, the players have just got to enjoy this win, but move on very quickly and start to focus on next week, but also the direction we're heading longer term, and try to, make sure that all the things we're coaching and trying to train, that they follow to the best of their ability.
That's Brad Scott, the North Melbourne coach in victory. Better players and the votes after Matt Clinch Footy Park.
Where it's a 34-point lead the way of the Brisbane Lions, 16-11, 107 to Port Adelaide, 10-13, 73. Jonathan Brown has 5 goals, Justin Sherman booted 4, and Brendan Favola kicked 3, while for Port Adelaide, 3 to Treadray, 2 to Schultz and 2 to Salenbeck. But a couple of minutes to go, and it'll be a comfortable win to Brisbane, who remain undefeated so far.
Stan, the better players from North Melbourne's 25-point win over West Coast.
West Coast Eagle first. Lecras, if they were going to win it, from my perspective, it was going to be Lecras. He kicked 5. His use of the footy put him above most of his other teammates. Prius in there because, he works hard. I mentioned during the call of the game, though, that he is an A-grade winner of the footy, but he's not an A-grade user of the footy. That's not to be unfair to him, but he is good. Other players who took my note, I thought Ebert, I liked his work. Rosa, he worked for the 4 quarters, as did Dalziel, and liked the work of Jones in that way. From the North Melbourne perspective, I don't think there's any doubt who's going to get the 3 votes. Harvey was just sensational, 4-quarter performance by Harvey. Just for a little bit of information there, this is his quarter-by-quarter breakdown, 12, 13, 10 and 9. So it's that fantastic spread across the whole game there. We talked about young Bolsonak. He's a little gun, there's no doubt about it. Their defensive area, I thought Ferrito, Rawlings and Grima were very good down the back half. We talked about Wells, but in so often I think that from Wells's perspective, we're going to see a lot more of him because he got a lot of the footy, but a lot of it was just little ones through the back half and using his smarts. And another player who really impressed me today was young Liam Anthony.
Well, I'd agree with all of that, Stan. I really would. The one vote, Mark Lacroix. I thought, yeah, you're right, Stan. If West Coast were ever going to win the game of footy, it looked like he was the most dangerous. 5 goals in a team that kicked and butchered the ball inside 50 was a tremendous effort. 2 votes to Swallow. He's come along in leaps and bounds, hasn't he? His clearances were high, and Brad Scott during the week would have said, I want every player out there to put their head over the ball and go for it, and he did that. And 3 votes to an outstanding effort, a skipper's game. You couldn't have asked for more from him. He ran himself into the ground, and that spread of possessions, as you said there, Stan, just shows you it wasn't a 3-quarter effort. It was a 4-quarter effort, and it was almost a Michael McGuan goal of the year, even though the Collingwood supporters didn't like you saying that, Drew.
Was it the greatest behind you've ever seen?
It had to be.
No doubt.
Had to be. Clearly best on ground.
3 to Harvey, 2 to Swallow, 1 to Lacroix. North Melbourne 17-14, 116 over West Coast 13-13, 91. Just incidentally, the AFL rulebook section 13 says no electronic devices allowed on the field. So that will be the method of action, if any, is to be taken with West Coast. The Masters, who win the Masters, Drew?
I didn't think it was possible, but I think Tiger could win it. Well, he's 8. What is he? He's 6 under now.
2 off it.
If he gets 6 more under on the weekend, I think 12 under can win.
How lucky that the smug Englishman wasn't our updater today.
Yeah.
Do you think we would have heard about it?
The 2 of them there.
Yeah. George's Face is about to take us through the sports update, including all the racing from Randwick and the BBC wrap of the halfway point of the US Masters.
I can actually just fill you in the last quarter in the game at Football Park. Just a few Dream Team points in that game because everybody's into it. Everyone's playing. How about this, Dan? Matt Maguire, 111 points. Riscatelli, 105. Redden, 95. And for Port Adelaide, Salopek, 113, followed by Treadray, 95. Boak and Kane Corns, 92. But the leader there, Stephen Salopek, and Matt Maguire. Well done.
Matty Maguire. If you are playing Dream Team and you'd like to play with us, just go to the website, abc.net.au/grandstand, the AFL page, and on the right-hand side you'll find the link to our Dream Team competition. There's more than 600 already. We'd love to have you play with us throughout the year. So that's the scene from Docklands. North Melbourne by 25 points over West Coast. This is a little of what unfolded. From the target area, Cox knocks it wide of the pack, but Boomer Harvey is there. He gets at the left boot. How fitting! How fitting that Boomer Harvey should put up the goal which has North safe. The first of the final 2 in a match he has utterly dominated.
And the unmet hand pass comes to Boomer Harvey. He charges down the city wing. He's had 3 or 4 or 5 bounces. He's taken it all the way to half forward. About 6. He blocks the hand pass. A Mickey McGuan type run. He goes for goal. And hits the post. Oh, what a goal that would have been.
Marston hand pass to Scott. He got caught with it and he dropped it. He's punished holding the ball. And North Melbourne to get the shot at goal. Delivers at goal. He's found the target. And North have found the breathing space again.
Rawlings a little hand pass to Wells. Siren signals a breakthrough victory for Brad Scott. And some sort of a comeback by the Kangaroos.
Good evening. Georgia Spokes with you in the Grandstand studio. And at Docklands Stadium, as you've just heard this afternoon, North Melbourne posting its first win of the season by 25 points over the West Coast Eagles, 17-14, 116 to the Eagles, 13-13, 91. The big goal kicker for North, or 2 goal kickers for North, the main ones anyway, David Hale and Liam Anthony both kicking 3. For the Eagles, Mark Lacroix had 5. And as you've heard too, the AFL will look into the use of a mobile phone by ruckman Dean Cox and Nick Natanui during the breaks. And apparently the use of electronic devices goes against the rules of the AFL. And apparently they were talking to a ruck coach on the phone back in Perth, but I'm sure we'll hear more about that early next week. The other match underway, well, just finished at Football Park. Matt Clinch.
Yeah, full-time Georgia, a 27-point win the way of the Brisbane Lions, 16-12, 108 to Port Adelaide, 11-15, 81. Jonathan Brown kicked 5 goals for the Brisbane Lions, Justin Sherman kicked 4, and Brendan Favola booted 2, while for Port Adelaide, Warren Treadray kicked 3, 2 to Schultz and 2 to Stephen Salopek. Brisbane led at every change by 25 points at quarter time, 39 at half time and 45 points at three-quarter time. They've run out 27-point winners and, as I said, remain undefeated so far in season 2010.
Thanks very much to Matt. Moving on to other sport, and firstly to Augusta, where the British pair of Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter share the lead at the end of the second round of the US Masters. The duo are at 8 under, 2 strokes clear of a group of 5, including Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson and KJ Choi. Adam Scott is the best placed Australian on even par. The ABC's Nick Bailey spoke to the BBC's John Murray, who's covering the Masters.
It's been a little bit like the old days at the Masters that those of a certain age will remember, when the Europeans used to dominate in the late 80s and the early 90s. And strangely enough, it's not since before Tiger Woods won his first major that there's been a British winner here. If you remember that dramatic Masters in 1996 when Nick Faldo came back and won against Greg Norman, which I suspect you will remember. But at this Masters, at the halfway stage, we have Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter, who share the lead on 8 under par, and it actually could have been a little better for them because they both bogeyed the 18th. Westwood came in with a 69 in the end, and Poulter a 68, which was his second successive 68, and was the equal best round of the day in the second round. And that means that they're going to be playing tomorrow in the last group out, as they did in the practice rounds this week. They're good friends together, Ryder Cup teammates, of course. And when they played together in the practice rounds, they had the usual bet on who would shoot the lowest score. And it was Lee Westwood who won the money between them when they did that. So certainly that's going to be something for us to look forward to tomorrow.
I guess it's also two gentlemen who have shouldered the burden of English expectations going into majors. A lot's been expected of them for a long time.
Well, that's absolutely the case. But the strange thing is, it's a little bit of a combination of the very bad and the very good for the British and Irish challenge this week, because of the British and Irish players at this Masters, and it was a sizable contingent, Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter are actually the only two of them who've made the cut. So there are some fairly sizable disappointments for the British and Irish contingent, and I'm thinking of the likes of Luke Donald, Paul Casey, certainly Rory McIlroy as well, who have all missed the cut this week. But we do have Poulter and Westwood to fall back on.
It's a handy thing to have. Obviously, Tiger Woods has caught a lot of the attention leading into the tournament. It was another solid day for him.
Well, it's not far short of remarkable what he is doing this week after almost 5 months without a round of competitive golf. The hoopla that there's been this week, I was out there next to the first tee yesterday when he hit his first shot, and certainly I've never seen anything quite like it, and I doubt that the Augusta National itself has ever seen anything quite like it. There was such a throng, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people shoulder to shoulder waiting for Tiger Woods to hit that first tee shot, and as we know now, he found the fairway, went on to put together that round of 68 yesterday, and I think that his round of 70 today wasn't too far short of that. So here he is now, when really no one expected too much of him this week, and he's in a tie for third place at the halfway stage.
How was his demeanour today? Was he obviously a little under less pressure than he was on the first day? Did he seem slightly more relaxed?
I actually went out onto the course and followed him for 2 or 3 holes this morning, when I was also keeping an eye on Ian Poulter, and Poulter's group were just ahead of Tiger Woods, so I did have a chance to see him on that front nine, and I felt he was actually a little wayward and he had to scramble, but scramble he did. The other thing I would mention about him is the fact that he, as he did in the practice rounds, was wearing sunglasses whenever possible, and would take them off on the green for his putts or chips around the putting surface. But the reason that he's doing that is because of the huge amount of pollen that there is in the air from the pine trees at this Masters. Again, it's something that I've not witnessed before. In that we've had quite literally clouds of this greeny yellow pollen which comes from the pine trees and has really caused problems for Tiger Woods, who's susceptible to allergies in any case. But in terms of his on-course demeanour with the crowd, yes, he was continuing to acknowledge the supporters who called words of encouragement to him around the course. So I would say it was pretty much the same as yesterday, and when he did well, there was strong support for him.
And the other two big stories, I guess, on day one was the veterans who were up amongst the leaders, Fred Couples and Tom Watson. They managed to hold their own again?
They did, yes. They had a couple of shaky moments, both of them together. But Fred Couples at 50 and Tom Watson at 60 are still within touching distance of the lead. Fred Couples, 75 for him today. Tom Watson at 74. So they are both on 3 under par, which is still only 5 shots off the lead, so they've comfortably made the cut.
And the big Australian hope was Adam Scott heading into this round. He was at 3 under par, not the ideal day for him or for some of his compatriots.
Yes, Adam Scott, a 75 for him today, which means that he's dropped back to level par. Jeff Ogilvy, I must say, has recovered after a very shaky front 9 of his first round yesterday. But a 72 today, so he made the cut by a shot on 2 over, and just making the cut, Robert Allenby, and also Nathan Green, who's making his debut in the Masters this week. Both Allenby and Green 75, so 3 over par. But John Senden and another man in his first Masters, Mark Leishman, both missed the cut.
And who joined them in missing the cut? Where there's some big names have bitten the dust at the Masters.
Yes, they have, as well as all of those British and Irish players that I mentioned, including Padraig Harrington, as well as Rory McIlroy, who won't be here at the weekend. Jim Furyk, nowhere near making the cut. Paul Casey, who I should add came into the Masters with a little bit of a question over his shoulder, so perhaps wasn't fully fit. And also Stuart Sink as well, the Open champion, who snatched it away from Tom Watson at Turnberry last year. Stuart Sink also missing the cut.
That's the BBC's John Murray talking to the ABC's Nick Bailey. Big day of racing at Randwick, the $1.3 million AJC Derby run and won, and here's how it panned out, courtesy of 2KY.
The leader is Cedarburg. Desperado moves up strongly. Rock Classic back to the inside. Extra Zero runs on. Zabrasive's got some room now. Followed by Home on a Wing. Desperado at the 300 leads by a length. Zabrasive trying hard. Here's Shootout running on. Then Monaco Consul. Desperado at the 150. Shootout wearing it down. Zabrasive the inside. Monaco Consul late. Shootout takes the lead. Shootout will win the Derby. Shootout by a length. Second Desperado, third Monaco Consul, fourth Abrasive, a gap to Extra Zero, Home on a Wing.
And earlier the Group 1 English Sires Produce Stakes was taken out by Yosei ahead of Skilled and Hinchinbrook, and Melito was the winner of the 1200 metre TJ Smith Stakes, beating Hot Danish and Micmac across the post. One game underway at the moment in the NRL, and it's Souths 6 leading Newcastle 4. Tonight the Bulldogs meet the Warriors and the Cowboys hosts West Tigers. One game also underway in the Super 14s. Currently early in that match, the Crusaders 3 lead the Waratahs 0. Already today the Highlanders have gone down to the Force 41-27. The Stormers 33 have beaten the Blues 21, and tonight the Brumbies meet the Cheetahs. In netball, 2 matches finished today. The New South Wales Swifts remain undefeated, 50, beating the Central Pulse 36. They're yet to post a win. And at the wonderfully named Mystery Creek Event Centre in Hamilton, New Zealand, the Waikato Magic 55 have beaten the West Coast Fever 50. And tomorrow the Adelaide Thunderbirds host the Southern Steel, while Monday night Queensland Firebirds host Northern Mystics, and the Canterbury Tactics up against the undefeated Melbourne Vixens. Now, 5 games complete in the opening round of the VFL today. Williamstown 21-11, 137, defeated Collingwood 16-10, 106. The Box Hill Hawks 21-18, 144, overcoming the West Werribee Tigers.